Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on J Slay, Made in the USA, where we explore truth, expose deception, and inspire courage. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Austin Davis about what he claims is a decades-long sexual abuse cover-up at the Covenant Church and the potential implications that has on the motives for the Nashville shooter at Covenant School. Mr. Austin Davis was one of the original members and deacons of the Covenant Church. He met his wife and was married there. His father is buried there. Austin even designed the logo for the Covenant School back in the early 2000s, and then his daughter Daisy went to the school. But after becoming alarmed about some of the things that he saw and heard regarding the elementary school students, he began to call for a child abuse investigation at the church. Not too long after this, he was banned from the church campus and eventually arrested, spending 18 days in jail. But why? You can decide for yourself after listening to this show. Austin strongly believes that the church and its political and judicial allies are committed to ensuring the public never discovers the truth about this scandal and how it may be tied to the shooter Audrey Hale's motives, as well as the government's motives behind keeping this manifesto behind lock and key. For those of you who know the work of Austin Davis but do not really know the man, this will be your chance to hear from him as a real person and then make your own decision regarding his character, mental stability, and the validity of his claims. This is a disclaimer. The statements made, any claims about guilt, these are the claims of Austin Davis alone. Now, if you have questions for Austin, this is really cool. At the end of this show, which is pre-recorded, Austin's going to be coming back on live to take questions that have been said in the live chat. So as you think of them, if you want to hear from Austin directly, post your questions in the live chat. I will be monitoring this. We'll pick out some of the good ones. He's going to come on. It's going to be right at around 10 o'clock. So in 2 hours from the start of this show, Austin will be on to answer your questions live. Thank you very much and enjoy the show. For many of you who watch my channel, you guys know that I look at things many times at a federal level and international level. I look at the global trickle down, and occasionally that global trickle down will reach all the way into local events, local politics, etc. And one of the key moments that everybody right now around the country knows about Williamson County, the Nashville area, is the Nashville shooting with Audrey Hale last year, the transgender shooter. And, if you just look at what the mainstream media has to say, there's a couple of weird things that come out immediately. One of those is, why did this happen? It was a trans shooter. That may be a little odd, even though we're seeing more of that. But why are they not releasing this manifesto? It seems like they release manifestos rather quickly in other cases, but not in this case. And there's this idea of the parents have control of whether the manifesto gets released or not. And it doesn't seem like they want it to be released. Well, when you begin to dig here locally, there's one name that continues to pop up. He had great involvement from the early days at Covenant Church, even designed the logo for Covenant School, and that's Austin Davis. He was a deacon over there, highly respected, well-known family. And over time, with the exposure of things he was seeing that had nothing to do, we don't think, with Audrey Hale way back then, he became a social pariah, was sent to jail. All these things that just bring up big question marks of why would this happen to this man? Eventually not even allowed to go back to the church. Well, with exploration and with time, I decided it's time to reach out to this man, Austin Davis. So that's what I've done today. We're going to have a great conversation. You got to decide for yourself if the evidence is stacked up enough to believe the claims that he's making. I don't even know quite where I stand in all this, but I'm glad to have Austin Davis here in the studio. Austin, thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you inviting me on your show. And Steve Abramowitz had me on his show maybe a week or so ago, and then he called me the next day and told me about you. And I'd heard about you before, but anyway, I appreciate you inviting me on. This is it's hard for me to talk about on a number of levels. I have trouble at times. I just the children, and I played sports, and I think a lot of guys that play sports, they really do love kids. and they coach them and they're around them, and kids look up to people that have played ball, and we all played ball, and we all looked up to our heroes or whatever. I wasn't really one of those, but I had plenty of them I looked up to. Everybody wanted to sign an autograph for kid or hit a home run for them or do anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think we have hearts for them, and it's just so tragic. It's such a, I know some things that other people may not know. I've had tips, and it just, again, it breaks my heart about the children. These kids are little kids. They're preschool, sixth grade. Right now, they're not even meeting at Covenant. They're meeting in another church facility, and they're supposed to be coming back here in April. And I've been saying recently they should close the school down. They should not bring those kids back into that school. It's too dangerous. It's unsafe, and
that's why this is pretty hot in the news right now. Is it's not like this that the only concern people have is where's this manifesto. It's also why are the kids are going to go back and inhabit this very same building?
Yeah.
Which we can get back on that topic, but before we do, take us back, because like I said in the opening, my audience is more of a nationwide or maybe looking at global issues a lot. This one here is really local. Most of the people have never heard of Covenant Church other than what they've heard in the mainstream news, just due to the shooting. So you've got a history back to the beginning, right? The early 90s, you knew the original founding pastor. You designed the logo for the school. Tell us about those early days and set a foundation for this church.
The church started, and I think there were 38 original founding members. They met over in, I believe it was Sugar Tree, but there was a clubhouse or something. It was like a gated community. And a lot of these founders were at Christ Pres Church, which is where I had gone. And Christ Pres was a church that was connected to First Pres Church in Nashville, which is a big old church out on Franklin Road. And they had a big split in the 80s. And then I just got out of Ole Miss and just moved back to Nashville when the split happened. And they went over and met in Hillsborough High School. Hillsborough High School is over in Green Hills, right near where Covenant is. And so it was about 800 people, I think, at that time, maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood. The church was a big church. They met over there. They met in a school. And I went there. I was just come back from Memphis and Nashville and Ole Miss, and so I was at Christ Pres for years. And then when Covenant started, they were meeting in Green Hills. Christ Pres had gone and moved on, built their own building, and had their own school. They're kind of the mothership for all the Presbyterian churches in America that are located in Nashville. There were none back in the days. Now there may be 25 or 30.
Yeah. I met with a guy yesterday who went to Christ Pres, and he was kind of talking about how Covenant branched off of them.
Yeah, well, and that was later on, and so when they did, Christ Pres had built the school and done a lot of the things first, and the people that were there wanted the sanctuary. They wanted to they wanted a place to worship. They wanted a school or something to be second to that.
Right.
So they had a difference in philosophy. But anyway, 38 people met. John Perry was one of the original founders, and he's the child molester that was an officer with me in the church that I ended up reporting, and what a lot of this battles on. He's the most protected. If you want to go global, I think he's probably the most protected child molester in the world. And he wrote, he's a prominent Christian biographer. Wrote books for Mike Huckabee and, Reverend Franklin Graham's final book on Billy Graham. So we've gone from local here to global in a
big
heartbeat.
deal. If you're co-authoring books with Franklin Graham about Billy's life,
the final book,
made it.
The one that's going to be published on his death.
Yeah.
And so Nashville's country music, Christian music, the Dove Awards, Nashville's a big city for these kind of things. Right. And it's got movies that are made, and the Bible, Thomas Nelson Publishing, which is where a lot of Christian writers go. Sam Moore was the who I sold Bibles more when I was in college up in Virginia. I went up there when I was at Ole Miss. I went and sold Bibles door to door. And Sam was the chairman of Thomas Nelson. Thomas Nelson's now owned by HarperCollins. It's owned by News Corps, I believe. And then News Corps is Rupert Murdoch. So Rupert Murdoch owns all of Billy Graham's, basically a lot of his books. So it's like all the way global media. It's everything, but it's just we're here in Nashville. We just happen to be in this.
That's one of the reasons this story interests me at such a level, because I can see those tendrils. Really, I worked it from the local and then kind of worked my way up.
And so they, like when Succession came out, I started watching it. I had no interest in watching it initially just because I'm doing some other things. But when I realized that might be about Rupert Murdoch and the Murdochs, and I said, well, I think I'll watch, see what I don't know how these people live. I watched it.
What is Succession?
It's a huge HBO, I think HBO, one of the big shows, but it's basically kind of, talking about the Murdochs.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, so I started watching it. So it's interesting show. I don't know whether the Christian world would want to be watching it. I'm sure that I wasn't raised really. I went to church some. I had a Christian mother, but I wasn't. My father wouldn't darken the door of church. He'd been in Korea, been in the war, and seen combat and stuff. And so he wasn't a guy that. Matter of fact, he thought I had to watch my language because I talked like my father a lot. But he basically thought very little of Christians, thought they were gutless and spineless, and they didn't really stand for anything, and saw the church, it didn't attract his manliness in a sense.
Yeah, I get that.
And he ended up getting baptized at Covenant at the age of 70 after he and I had a knockdown, drag-out fight one day for about 3 hours, cussing each other like sailors, and me telling him some things that he needed to be told, but probably never been told in his life. And
because at that point you're a strong believer, but your dad's not.
Yeah,
and y'all had a fight.
Yeah, and it just was a knockdown, drag out. And he was like, in the South, you're not really you're a man until you're about 50 years old, and your dad says you can be one. That's what they always say. But I respected my father and learned a lot from him and all. But I finally took him on in that area, and we had a knockdown, drag out, and it went back to the war, and I had to tell him I thought the war had really messed him up and screwed him up, and he needed to get to church and make his peace with God, as I think everybody should before they die. We all got problems. We all got things we don't like about him. I certainly hated his guts for a long time, but there's that place where you have to come and get real with yourself. And that's what I told him. And at 69, and it's really tough to come back and like turn on your own life that you've lived and everything you believe. I almost think it's harder for a person when they're older, because they sit there and they're having to renounce their life that they've lived.
Yeah.
And then, and that takes some guts, because most
people
people
set in your ways thing. Right?
Yeah. And you're too stubborn. You don't really want to do that, And so for him to go up at Covenant and stand there and hold my little daughter hand what they sprinkle you. I had to be immersed in a tank at another church because I had so much sin on me. I had to go in and really be washed off,
right.
Or a hose or whatever.
That's what I believe in.
Presbyterians don't like all that, but the sprinkling wasn't enough. My dad felt the same way, so I'm not sure this sprinkling's going to get it. But he did that, and it was on Father's Day, and a couple weeks later on the 4th, and we told the story the other day, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but that was the year that the Covenant School opened up, and Daisy was a first grader. Audrey Hale, who was
Daisy being your daughter,
okay. And Audrey Hale, who was the shooter, she was in kindergarten, and there's nothing that will ever be said that justifies anything. You couldn't say that there's anything that could be done that would justify going to school and shooting people. And somehow, God, I pray that He finds a way to work in people and soften them and stop that. We're in a really evil time in the world, but I do know that was and I feel such a failure of the church to have a little kid that we used to see and would be in chapel, and they used to sing every morning, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it." They sang that today at the school, the day the shooting took place, because that song was sang. That's where the tradition was established every morning. And so to think of somebody that actually went there to come back in years later, than go in there and go through the house of God and fill it up with bullet holes and shoot the windows out and shoot children, and but it is what it is. And it's happened. And now the helicopters and the cops and everybody's up there on the place, and that's right at the site of where the Civil War, basically, the Battle of Nashville was lost right there on that hill. That was where they charged from, the Union troops going up the hill at Shies Hill to go over there where the rebels were, had come through Franklin and everything. There's a Battle of Nashville. If you look at some of my stuff, you'll see where it's been referred to as this is the new Battle of Nashville. And I think I think God in His providence has all that going on. I don't understand what all's happening, but we're at a really important time, place, this is a big deal, what's happening here, and the manifesto is not being released and all that. I'm wandering and getting away.
That's okay. Well, I think,
But back to the beginning of the days, that we're starting there, and you've got John Perry and me and other people. I came in there later on after the church got over into a little building. I came in, hell, there might not be 50 or 60 people in there when I went over there. And I sat on the back row, ended up meeting my wife on the back row. She came in. She didn't go to church very much either. And she's sitting next to me, and her hands were trembling. And I'd made a pledge a year before. I was 36, I think, at the time. I'd dated a lot in my life. I told all my friends I'm not dating anymore. I'm retired. And I wasn't ever dating again. I didn't want to go out and didn't want to date any more girls. I just wasn't looking. And she came and sat over. And as soon as I looked over at her and caught her eye, I just kind of knew. And it felt strange. And her hands were shaking. And then they had to sign something. And I saw her name. I went back and called a friend of mine. So I played at Vanderbilt and he'd been drafted. He was a free agent to the New England Patriots, but he was out in Colorado at the time. And I called him and I said, God, I just saw this girl in church, and I think I'm going to unretire, but I don't know who she is. He goes, what's her name? I just said Catherine Fleming. He goes, oh, I know her. I said, oh my God. He always walks around and tells everybody that he's the bigger, badder version of Tom Cruise,
Okay.
And so I'm going, oh my God, you think you know every girl in Nashville? He says, I swear I know her. So we call her, and she goes, so they do know each other. So we start talking. We end up going out, and then about 6 months later, we got engaged in the back of the church, and I put the ring in the hymnal, asked her to marry me. I'd go and talk to her mom and dad and ask their permission. And then we got married. We got baptized. Our children got baptized there. The pastor married us. This guy and I were close. And then we coached basketball. The guy was there from 92 to 2008 when the police ended up being used on me to block me from going in there. So it wasn't like I just barely got there.
To me, this part of the story is important because if somebody just stumbles upon your website the way that I did, looking at things, I don't, it's not like you can always find the history that you have at this church, but it's not like you were a guy that just went to the church for a year, nobody really knew you, and then something happened, and now you got this huge, because people get bitter, they get grudges, they spend their life as a victim. So for me as a host, when I'm meeting people, getting to know their story, I kind of got my antennas out for that, because there are people who want to just live in victimhood, and everybody else is the bad guy. But knowing that, man, you were there early on, met your wife there, among your father got saved there. Like, that's amazing stuff.
And he was buried there right when the 9/11, after 9/11 happened, right when he was in it's a long story which I won't go into, but he died right behind it.
Yes.
And we buried him right when the stuff was beginning to start, and he's having a military funeral with a flag on him, and he hadn't gone to church in 50 years.
Unreal.
And he looked up, and he used to look at me and he said, I don't know if I can cuss on there or not. I don't know if I'm
on my show.
Anyway, I'll have to watch this, but I'm just saying it's real. That's what he would do. It's like the great Santini. Yeah. I was raised by the great Santini.
You can be, if it's bad enough, I'll bleep it out.
Okay. So anyway, he said, but he would go, I'll tell you, I'd go, well, Dad, you got to think about where you're going to be buried. And he said, hell, I ain't going to be buried anywhere. What do you mean buried? Damn church would fall in on me if I was in a church. So he just had no conception at all. Because he never intended to go back to church. But after we had our knockdown drag out with a lot of bad language in it, and probably wouldn't meet any kind of 4 steps that you're supposed to be doing to save somebody or whatever, Right. It's just a real down and dirty conversation, and me telling them some gut level truth and him not wanting to hear it, and denying a lot of it. And then I said, I don't know what happened over in Korea, but whatever it was, it sure effed you up. And he broke down and just his shoulder, he was a big, tough guy, just sobbing. And I didn't know what in the world had happened. And then, I went over and told him I loved him, put my arm on his back and said, God, Dad. And he just was crying and crying for 30 minutes. And then I found out he then came to church for eight weeks for the new member class. He showed up at the church the next day. The guy came down to him and said, your father's in his wingtips, his IBM suit. He's down there, he's sitting on the back row. Nobody was even in the sanctuary. I didn't even talk to him. He came 8 weeks. We never even talked to each other. And then he didn't join. They have on the wall in there, they had, is God just? All the young people coming there, and the pastor would go, is God just? And I go, no, he's not just. Kids dying and shine. All the stuff about how God isn't just. But they just sat there quietly watching, never said a word. And then he goes through another 8 weeks. And I went to the last class. I sat in the back because I wanted to see if he'd ever speak. And then finally, after listening, he raised his hand and he said, he said, I've been to hell and back. And he said, it was man. He said, man did all of it. And he said,
all the evil, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, it's man. He said, I blame God, my whole life. And he said, he goes, God's just. And no theological explaining of how he came to that. My father's a serious guy. He was won Atomic Energy Commission scholarship, went to Vanderbilt, got his master's in physics, and watched saw Oppenheimer as the kind of guys my dad was hanging around with at the Vanderbilt when I was a boy. And he was in, those guys would come and have a chalkboard up there and be drawing all these formulas, things. I don't know what they were doing. But he was a smart guy, and he thought about things, a thoughtful person. But that was serious for him to come to a conclusion at the end. So, as an example to anybody, and the one thing I've learned is never give up on anybody. I don't care how old they are or how bad a shape you think they're in or whatever. They actually, a lot of them want you to challenge them. My dad wanted me to fight for him in a way. And to get in a knockdown battle, he respected that. And so, anyway, that's a side note.
That's good, though. Yeah, those conversations that are painful and there's difficult truths that are said to really make change in this world or in somebody's heart, they kind of have to be said.
Which is a small sample of like the kind of person my father raised and what I am. I reflect a lot of him. And that is, he didn't like people just jumping around and going to the place. In the church, everybody's like, they don't like something, they go over here. They jump over there. They like this preacher of the month, this little vanilla. I like the chocolate mint preacher or whatever, Yeah. I almost can't stand all of it. I've gotten around on it. I didn't go to church most of my life. The little bit I got into, banned and can't go now. And, people go, why don't you go someplace else? We did. But you can't go anywhere and start talking about what happened to you where you were because nobody wants to hear your Sandy Hook shooter threat to the church because if they find that out and the pastors are telling them and all the pastors know each other, you're ruined.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate that I'm kind of I did some writing. That's what I'd wanted to do and spent a lot of time with Shelby Foote over in Memphis. And so solitude doesn't bother me. And so I don't really, I'm pretty consistent of who I am. I'm a flawed Christian and really feel like I can't even imagine God letting me in. With everything about me. There's nothing I could do to perfect myself to get there.
Right.
But I do believe he loves me, and I think that he's covered me, and I think he likes me. And
that's a good thing.
And I'm in battle, and I think he's in here with me. And all the time I say, I don't feel, it's not even, as a person that's played sports, I look around the time and go, did they not see Almighty God's in this? I mean, is it hard for people to see that he's in this? Mm-hmm. It's not even a fair fight. And so, and he is, Joshua 1:9 talking about, he is a fort. There's a scene in Unbreakable, maybe Unbreakable, and there's a scene called The Orange Man. And it's where Bruce Willis goes in, he gets to the house late, and he sees a woman tied up, and he goes over and walks out on the balcony, and his only weakness is water. Mm-hmm. And the bad guy in orange comes out and grabs him and throws him over, and he goes down into the rubber mat that's covering the swimming pool, and it wraps him and he goes down. And that's the way I have felt, is that I've been wrapped up, pushed down, and have gone to the bottom, and it's to finish you off so you can never come out because you're basically dead and buried down there,
Yeah.
And he's down there fighting, he's wrapped up, and then all of a sudden those two little kids come and they reach down and you see the pole coming down into the water, and that music starts to stir, and then he comes over and grabs the pole. And then all of a sudden you see his hands come up, and then he's got that green, looks like an angel, in a way, that whole way that visual is. And he comes up, and then he rises up, and he's looking at the little kids. Mm-hmm. And then he's headed back up to that room to go get that guy.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see God. I just see him as like, I'm scared of him. People always ask me, scared of? I'm scared of God. That's who people need to be scared of. They're scared of too many other things. They're scared of the wrong things. Mm-hmm. God's who we need to be scared of. I mean, respectful. Yeah. There's no respectful women. People they don't respect or fear anything. But that I'm just telling you where I come from.
Yes.
When I see him, I'm going like, he's to be, and it's not a bad way. I feared my father. My father was a hard ex-military guy. If he told me not to do something, I could go try to do it, and I did. I was foolish as a boy, but there's going to be a consequence for doing that. But I feared him. And I don't think that's an unhealthy thing. We've lost it. We lost fear of law. There's no fear of law and order anymore. Everybody's running around doing stuff. We need, as a society, some healthy fear and respect of things. We don't have it anymore.
Most people are afraid to upset the apple cart. And that's, I think, where some of this, where your life began to go off the rails. I don't mean in a sense negative toward you, but you going from being a guy that was established at the church, respected all this stuff, to becoming a truth teller and a social pariah. Now, I say you got to prove that it was the truth, but when did this start for you, where everything got kind of off kilter?
Well, what happened? We buried my father in January of 2001. My mother passed away this week, so now she's going to be buried on Monday, and this is literally in the days after I filed that motion that just got denied on Saturday. So my mother and father are on bookends of this now, where my father's down here, and now my mother's here, and I'm in the stretch of all this time's going on. But that was in 2000.
Clear, your mother just died?
She died on, I think it was Saturday. I'm hazy on my memory. It was either April the 5th. I think it was April the 5th. So it may have been Friday. And then she will be buried out in the Veterans Cemetery out. It's beautiful out there with McCory Lane. And so she's always gone out there with me and seen the open spot. And she goes, I'm not ready to get in there yet. And my dad's on the other side. But anyway, they're there now. And it's a perfect story of she was 19. My dad was like 22 or 23. Came home broken from the war. She's a Christian girl. She prays for him. I don't know how she stayed with him. He was tough. It's like living with Gran Torino, Clint Eastwood or something. He was hard to. There are lots of stories in IBM and all the friends that know him. They were all talking about the other day. But she loved him, and they were young, and they were poor out of Natchez, Mississippi, coming up, and they, built a life together. And I was the first son. And so I'm the product of them. It was a long time, like 12 years before somebody else was born, but we went through some hard years, a lot of poverty and being dirt poor till we got to family. But anyway, so now they're out there together. But right behind that, when my dad was in the hospital, and he'd got out on the street over there on going down toward Broadway, and a friend of mine, Greg Lurie, who's in the church, whose kids were the ones that ended up getting put in John Perry's safe house. The church.
Just so the audience knows, John Perry was a deacon at the time.
He's a deacon, and
well-known guy.
And he's prominent writer. He's a founder in the church. But Greg was a person like me, and we played softball together. He's an ex-baseball player, and this is before his kids are going to be put in there about a month before. He calls me, and because he met my dad once before or something. He called me and he said, your dad's out there wandering around the street in his pajamas out there in heavy traffic. And I said, hold him. And I knew he was in there, and there were some things that were going on with him. And I went there and then, picked him up, got him back over in the hospital. And Greg goes on, but then about a month later, 9/11 happened in 2001. He dies in, I think, January of 2002, and in March of 2002, Greg's and his wife have she was a church staff member. Father was a powerful elder, and they're in the church. This is their second marriages or whatever. Okay. They're both trying to, they're young, and they got a bunch of kids. They got about 8 or 9 kids. They got several from her marriage, 2 from his, and they had 3 or 4 of their own. But they had trouble, and they had an incident on a Saturday night at a parking lot, and then different things disputed about all that. But he went his way, and she went her way. And then he goes in church the next morning. He's sitting there, and the father-in-law comes and then doesn't serve him communion. And he's got his 2 kids with him. That's excommunicating somebody without the authority really to do it. And that's the Lord's table. And so there's a thing that's now happened in the house of God that's nobody really cares about. And this time, big deal, he didn't get communion served. But from God's perspective, it is kind of a big deal. And this really all started.
Well, I'm sure from Greg Lurie's perspective, at that moment, it's a big deal. It's like my father-in-law just skipped me.
I'm just saying that you're in there and it's the Lord's table.
Right.
And so it's happening in the church, this going on. And so he goes back and writes a letter to the Nashville, the Presbyterian Church of America, Dr. Audrey Hale over in Atlanta. And he writes a long letter, and he's telling them about what all was going on. He's saying, I'm getting hammered over here, because they were already in counseling and things that were going on in their family for months prior to this. And there's a committee assigned to him. John Perry is on the committee. and his wife, I guess, and Larry Ferris was there. And I'm trying to remember who the other one was, but I can't right off the top of my head. The three people, and they're like going over their house and getting in, kind of observing how they're living, how clean it is, all these things that they were examining, which in many ways, when Greg's
Almost like their own church version of DCS, but trying to manage the marriage.
But he asked for help. See, he had a failed marriage, and he wasn't raised in a Christian home. He's looking up to people going like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. These men are going to, I need them to help me. So it's that kind of thing that's going on.
But it's still abnormal for the church to put together a committee to send people to your home to observe, right?
I have no idea what everybody's doing. I told you that. I probably would not be going for that.
Right.
But
yeah. All right. So you got Greg Lurie misses the Lord's Supper because his father-in-law skips him.
And his kids get put in a safe house. He doesn't know. There's no, when he leaves, he thinks everything's okay. He doesn't know. He's gone back to the place, gotten two of his kids left him. We'll go, cool down over here, you over there. He doesn't know. No police are getting called. He's not having anybody show up at his house or come get him at night or anything, He writes the letter the next day, and then it gets sent to the church, to Pastor Botman, I suppose.
Who was the original pastor?
The original pastor, Jim. Okay. He's the founder of the church. So he gets to him, and then the message has already gone through the staff worker wife to the father, who's an elder, to other people. So there's, like the lynching is getting motion, which is against the rules of what you're supposed to do, because there's got to be due process, cool heads. You can't bring people in. You can't just start accusing everybody. So even if that is there, you've got to have, just like you do in any court, you got to have some reservation. And if you don't have that and you're really impartial, they've gotten prejudice, you don't need to be on the court. You don't need to be in there making decisions.
So there's a process in place.
Process. So anyway, he doesn't even know what all's going on yet. And he gets a call, I think it was on Sunday afternoon, whatever. By Monday night, I think he's in a session meeting with about 30 or 40 men before he goes in. He goes, it's going to be rough on there. These men are mad, and you're going to go in there and then just be humble, and I'll do the best I can to protect you. But really, he's being led in to be slaughtered. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the movie Mystic River, Clint Eastwood movie, and the guy, confesses to something he didn't do. They stab him, rolls him in the river. You get in there and you get enough pressure of a lot of men. They're beating on you, and you start, and you're trying to be humble anyway. You're trying to say something. You'll say things, and then now you've really stepped into it. Yeah. And so, because there was no due process. And so he goes there and does that. And what they're really mad at is that he wrote a letter and went outside of him and said, there's a problem now. I'm getting hammered. And he needed relief, because he did have people maybe that had some prejudice about what they were doing. There's too much home cooking in that. Mm-hmm. Father, staff member, and all. So, but he didn't get any. The guy tells him, no, y'all handle it. And then by Wednesday, I think, toward the end of the week, he gets a call telling him, you need to go turn yourself in the police on Monday. That way we don't come over to, I think he was at maybe Belmont University, or if he was worked in the financial, he was a financial controller or whatever, pretty substantial position. And so they're telling him, go turn yourself in.
What charge?
Huh?
On what?
Whatever happened on Saturday night. They obviously have reached the point where they've decided we got to go prosecute this guy now.
The church decided.
Yeah. Well, them and the counseling, the wife. So he has to go down there on Friday and turn himself in. And now
Did he do it?
Yeah, he did. When he got in, I guess he got fingerprinted, picture, whatever they do. That's what they did to me when they got me. But they take you in there and you got to go turn, and you got to go. Now you're in court, and so you're beginning the stages of all that, and then you're beginning the stages of divorce, which is really kind of what ultimately I think people were wanting to do. He wasn't wanting to do it, but I think there were other people and other forces. This hadn't worked out. We're going to go on. And yeah, it's all looking like we're trying to reconcile. I'm a mercy ministry person, which means I help people in distress, help them financially if I can, do the things, try to bring some ministry to their life and help them. Mm-hmm. And but I called. I didn't hear about it for about a month. I didn't know any of this stuff was going on. He's already gone. He's already been down there and done this stuff. This is a month later. And then when I found out, my wife and an elder's wife came to church after they were at church. Some men in suits came. They didn't know who they were. They came and told him that he couldn't take his 5 or 6 year old daughter out of class under no conditions, let him leave with her. And those women, my wife and this other, thought, we never had that happen here before. And then they're immediately thinking, well, there must be, he's done something to his daughter.
Yeah.
Who are these men? Why are they saying this? So they came to the house as soon as church was over, sat me down, and they tell me what happened. And they go, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I hadn't heard anything about any of this. What is this? And so they're telling me, and they said, you need to get involved. Do not be fooled. We don't trust what we're hearing here. And these are women. And so they had doubts about what might be getting told to people. And so, and they said, you guys may not figure that out. And that's what they were telling me. Women.
Yeah. So the wife's word was not being, was in question.
So, yeah. And they're women, they're telling me that. So I'm going, okay, well, maybe I'm not involved in it yet.
Yeah.
But then I called a pastor, went over and got on the phone call, and he said, keep your nose out of this. You don't need to get involved in this. Unless God calls you into it, you stay out. I never had anybody tell me something like that. I was kind of shocked. Called another elder, same thing gets echoed again. I'm going, God, this is really strange. And so and he's not even at church, and he's not coming to church. A couple of days later, I get a call from Jim Botman, the pastor, and he says, I need you to get in and help this family. We got some problems, issues going on. So I'm reaching out to both of them. I had to go over to East Nashville. This guy's living in somebody's attic over there, Doesn't want to talk to any of us, scared of all of us. And I go and sit down. I said, hey, Greg, we play baseball together. I mean, I'm not your enemy. These guys are good guys. I'm going to tell you, they're not good guys. And I'm not believing him. I believe him more now, but I didn't believe him then. And I feel guilty about it because I'm leading him back in, and we're going in the church, we're submitting. He stays there for years, gets divorced inside there, all the stuff, and he's still coming, still submitting.
Okay.
And so,
well, how's this relevant to John Perry and all?
Well, because John's where the house, kids were put in the house. So we're all in disputes inside of the church, going to divorce courts, things like that from like 2002 to 2006. And at the same time, there's a Covenant school going over there. My daughter's in, and Audrey Hale's in it. And she's over there. That's the school. It's all part of the same facility and building.
Yeah.
And yet I'm over here with this, concerned about children, asking questions about children, resigning in 2006 in May from the deacon at the end of it.
Okay.
Because I'm just so beat up and frustrated and feel like there's something wrong, and I don't really know what it is. I'd actually requested an investigation, and they'd actually interviewed Greg right before, as we're getting toward the end of this. And then now, after the shootings happened,
you're talking about
way years later, I get a tip from a reporter who wrote it to me and sent it to me 2 days after the shooting, and says, do you ever come across Audrey Hale during your investigation? Well, we didn't. I didn't over there, but I hadn't gone back.
Your investigation was in 2006.
Yeah. Well, I think I requested it in 2004, and it went on for a long time, apparently.
Okay. And then your investigation was for the purpose
an internal investigation.
Looking at what, though? How would you frame that?
Well, when I was complaining about children, when there's something wrong, I think there may be something happening to some of these children in there. I'm asking that. I don't have any hard facts. It's just I can't go report anybody. Greg was already
What did you see, though, that was wrong with kids?
I saw some cutting. When I see cutting, and I didn't see it. My wife and other women did. They came and they were telling me the other women were noticing, one of the children kind of catatonic. They've been in the safe house, but see, the DCS was already in there. They were already looking at this family.
Just so I'm clear, because even though you're talking about the whole school, right? When you talk about an investigation, you're talking about Greg Lurie's kids that were cutting. Not a bunch of different kids.
Yeah, one of them that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just weren't the same. I mean, they were like whatever was going on, and what you don't know at that point in time is it because there's some emotional problems because of the divorce going on, and the family's moving over here, and the dad's over here, and all that. So you don't really know. I just knew that there were lawyers involved, there was DCS involved, the church is involved. I've been told to stay out of it, and all I'm trying to do is to help these families financially and do some things there.
Okay.
I'm in it, but I'm not in it to the level that a lot of this other stuff is that might be going on that I don't know about.
And the safe house, just so the audience is clear on this, because this is all new to me too.
Yeah.
The safe house is John Perry's home, and it's a kind of a set apart home.
It's like a pool house or something.
Pool, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got Laurie's kids staying at Perry's home because the church is trying to separate them. When the kids emerge from that, there's some cutting going on. There's some changes in behavior,
Yeah.
and you began to say, we need an investigation done.
Well, I was asking for but you do begin with process. He had asked for an investigation at the very beginning. Greg, when he wrote his letter, that's what he was asking for. Basically, he's asking, he's coming saying, I need something down here. It's basically called process. He's not getting it. I came back and asked, they turned me down. Then I found a little thing as I looked through the rule book, for baseball players. I went back and looked and I said, wait a minute, there's something here. They have to give it to him. So I wrote I'm an advocate, so I'm writing like legal documents almost inside church. I write it, it goes to him, and then they had to do it.
Had to do what?
Because I showed it why they had to.
Oh, okay.
They didn't want to. They'd been denying it before, but then they had to institute it. And when they instituted it, then they started. They interviewed me one day for probably 3 hours. I had 3 elders and then recorders in there. And they'll do a lot. They'll go around and talk to a lot of people. But see here, I think it was going on. I think they did it like maybe 2004. I'm seeing that there's a meeting with Greg. I think it was April of 2006. In May of 2006, I'm resigning from the Deacon, and I'm asking on May 10. Audrey is apparently in 4th grade there right then, and that's going to be, she's leaving.
Okay.
Now, the tip that I got came and said that she was interviewed in an internal investigation at Covenant. Covenant swept it under the rug, and there was no prosecution.
This is an outside media organization that contacted you, gave you this
So
tip.
They were told that by one of Hale's relatives.
One of her relatives said.
And this is in the first 48 hours before people probably started getting shut down.
Yeah.
On what they could say.
Okay.
So I didn't believe when I first got out. I didn't watch any TV for months because I live out where I am. I'm pretty remote. I moved down to Nashville, got away from everything, just to get as far away as I could. But I'm not watching TV. I don't see anything. But when that happened, I was getting calls from. I got people from the New York Times. People are contacting me. They want to know, you know anything about this? Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to write anything about this child sex abuse cover up inside of there because they're protecting it. They don't want to write about it. They would only write about possibly if it was tied to Audrey.
Yeah. Well, so far I'm not hearing any proof though that John Perry abused anyone.
Well, you're going to have to get into the documents. You're going to have to get into court documents.
Let me pull one up.
Okay. Well, this is the London Daily Mail statement after a BuzzFeed article broke, and the BuzzFeed article is a response from John Perry to what's in the article. And if you read the actual article, it'll say in there that the police investigated and they sustained the investigation, but the statute of limitations has expired. So the police are not coming back and saying, no, there wasn't anything at all. They're coming back and saying we investigated, we sustained it, but the statute of limitations expired.
Which means what?
Well, they're lying. They lied. They lied to us.
When they say the statute of limitations expired.
The crime can't be prosecuted. That's what happens. The only statute that's passed. It said that the victim was 19 years old and they're now 27. Still can't prosecute. Anyway, this is just his response where he's saying, I will tell you whatever private difficulties there may have been, the parties involved reconciled years ago, which I thank God every day. So it's all been covered up and taken care of and it's over. This is Roy Moore. These are some of the writers. This is John Perry, some of the writers that he's written for. Mm-hmm. And then this is Carolyn Postcone. And she, as a child, she's a Christ Presbyterian Academy mother. And John Perry's a Christ Academy father, Presbyterian Academy father. And she's coming in and she's testifying against me in the $3 million lawsuit against me that I've invaded privacy and I've actually re-traumatized. You're hearing it now being said about the victims at Covenant. It was being said about this victim that I'm re-traumatizing them. Mm. And so we're going to go down, you start scrolling down here. It's on March 14th, 2016. This is about this injunction, not to say anything about the victim. So I call it victim 1. This is the cross-examination. Get ready to go on. And it says, Ms. Cone, this is me and asking her questions on the stand. Ms. Cone, did you say you'd learned about the child molestation in 2008? Yes. Yes, sir, I answered it. So you learned about it in 2008.
And you said the child molestation, not the accusation of it, but the actual child molestation.
Yeah, and we'll just follow with it. It'll be self-explanatory. Okay. Yes, sir. And what did you do? What did I do with information? Yeah. Meaning like, what did I contact? And that's what she's asking. I just want to know what you did. Was it a private thing at that point in time? Did you do anything or did you just, sure, yes, sir. My client at the time was 18 years old, which is important to me to note. And When blank came, the church called. The church called. When blank came, the church called. It was a crisis, and I could get it in fairly quickly. I said, absolutely, come in quickly. Then, because I was not sure what to do, I contacted the Department of Children's Services and spoke with a representative there. And what they said was that because blank was now 18, that it left their office's abilities, and so. All right, so they're saying they called the Department of Children's Services. When I called them, they said nobody called. I called them years later. They were interested. They're asking me, and I said, well, do y'all we're not supposed to report molesters after people are 18. Does that just let them go by? That doesn't sound very good. So in 2008, when did you first start counseling Blake? April. Or was it 2007, whenever it was? It was 2008, and it was April. So in April of 2008, they know in there, a pastor is contacting people to come in and help, emergency counseling services. And 3 months later, the Nashville police are being used to silence me, shut down my family, and crush us.
Right, which you've not even talked about in
I
this
don't even
interview.
know about this yet. I don't even know about there being molesting. April. And so when the church calls you, do you know who it was in the church that called you? One of the pastors. Do you remember who? I believe it was Pastor Ferris. Pastor Larry Ferris, who had been a good friend of mine. If it gets reported to DCS, then DCS has to let the police know, and then the police come and investigate. Answer. My understanding when I reported is that they told me that they don't start working on cases where children are at the age of 18 or above. That's my understanding. I'm just asking because I don't know. This is all murky to me when I got to it and did it. Just trying to figure out what happened because I'll call them in 2012. I went to the FBI, the U.S. attorney. I didn't go to the police because I was too scared to go to the police, of course. So the police, the first time you ever talked to any police was in 2013? Correct. Are you sure about that? It's hard. I say, are you sure? Because I reported this in October of 2012. And the police brought me in on December the 5th of 2012. She's saying they talked to her in 2013. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they talk to her when they were investigating? Mr. Davis. So the police told me on December 5th, 2012 that the investigation was closed and over, that they'd already talked to everybody. So could you think back a little bit and see if maybe it was sometime at the end of 2012? According to my records, I got a call in July of 2013 by a detective who was researching the case. That's what's documented in my records. Now, the reason that's interesting right there, July of 2013, because we filed a lawsuit against the first Covenant lawsuit we filed was on June the 19th, 2013.
When you say we, you and your
my
wife?
Family. So guess when the police, I believe they did come back and talk to him, but I think they also talked to him before. But isn't that interesting? See, a month after we filed a lawsuit, the police are now coming and investigating. They're going back and checking. Okay. They were blocking. Now they're kind of worried because they've gone in the covenant. They've gone in the covenant in February this year, and they've told them there's nothing to his claims.
Okay.
There's a recording about that. So prior to this, they've gone in and told 2,000 members of Covenant, when I was sending out some information saying, I know there's a molester and everything, they've told the church people, they've deceived them. They've told them there's nothing to the claims in February of 2013. Now they are in this time before. So now in July of 2013, after we filed our first lawsuit, now the police are coming back in, according to this testimony.
Okay.
And they're going back in and researching. What you'll see is that in 2015, BuzzFeed, they're going to say, yes, we checked it out. It's sustained. It's real. Mm-hmm. And statute of limitations expired because they got to go back and cover up everything they did before, so they got to say everything was expired.
Okay.
That's what they're working.
Tricky.
Yeah, it's all tricky. So ask her questions. Who is the molester? Who is what? The molester. Do you know who the molester was? Yes, sir. Did you name him? Yes, sir. Who is it? John Perry. Do you know how many times? How many times the court? I don't know how that's relevant. How's that relevant? You asked her a question. Ms. Davis, I thought she was a psychologist, the court. How's that relevant? The witness, may I say one thing? Ms. Davis, I asked her a question. She's testifying as a psychiatrist or whatever. The witness, hang on a minute. So my understanding is we're to determine whether the continued publicity around this issue affects my client, which it really does. But I also say the more details you ask related to the sexual abuse will re-traumatize far more than some other things have in the past year or so. And that would be my concern as a clinician. Mm-hmm. It's relevant because we're sitting here in 2016. Back in 2008, people were discussing something, and I have a question I want to ask you. Do you practice relational restoration as an entity, as a counseling technique. Yes, I don't know what that specific term means, but that means it needs to happen, then absolutely. She's saying she absolutely would practice it. So when there's a child molested, is relational restoration. And the Presbyterian Church of America has admitted that they did it for a long time. Is that a technique where you sit down with the victim and the person who did the molesting and go over that in tremendous detail to find out what he did? Can you imagine that? A molester with a kid?
To get those two together?
Yeah. In the PCA, they do relational restoration. Weird. They've been doing it for years. They admitted that they did it.
That's weird.
I've got the documentation.
Okay.
Was it used in this case? It was. I know it was. I don't know in this case what the church did with it. I only know from my perspective what happened in counseling sessions. Are you asking me about the church? She goes, did you ever sit down with the parties involved and go through that practice with them? I sat down with the parties involved, and the purpose was not for relational restoration. The purpose was disclosure and healing for my client. Also, some of it is helpful when somebody admits to harming you in front of you.
That sounds exactly like relational restoration.
It is. And what it is, what relational relationship is, the victim forgives the molester and reclaims them to the kingdom of Christ by forgiving them. The problem is if the molester may be just using that. It may not be genuine. It's not even, they didn't need to come. And then they walk out of there like they did in the Catholic Church.
It's a crime,
and they go
really, right? I mean, it's
a crime within society.
But so what I'm understanding is the Presbyterian Church, even to this day,
well, I don't know about to this day. They say they've stopped.
Well, at this time then, kind of kept that crime in-house. Like, we're going to handle this in-house.
Yeah, they get you over there and they work the family. It's going to be destroyed with that getting out about your daughter, son, whatever.
Okay. Which kind of lends, now I understand more why they think that they could go and sit in with Greg Lurie and his family and watch things.
Yeah, you'll get really involved with you.
Okay.
Ms. Davis, did you know other children have been put in the molester's house back in 2002? Other children have been put, yes, the safe house. There were other children put back in his house, little girls, small kids. I did not know that. Yes, that was done in 2002. Mr. Crane, objection. That's testimony, Your Honor.
What does that mean? That's testimony, being like, that's your opinion?
I'm trying to ask her, do you know about it? And she says, no, I didn't know any little girls with her, anybody, kids put in that house.
Right.
She doesn't know about the safe house. That's kind of important.
Right.
As a person that deals with people who've been molested, is that a concern to you? Putting kids in a safe house at his safe house.
Mm-hmm.
And
just so I'm clear, she's already would fully admit at this point that John Perry is a child molester.
Yeah, she's already testified.
She's testified that's true.
Yeah.
That's not just you, Austin
that's
Davis, saying it.
She's met with him. She sat there and she's already said.
I know. It's mind blowing that he's not in trouble.
He's in the court and they should be calling the bailiff. Get over here and arrest this guy.
Yeah.
He's not in the court, but they should be doing that. It's the way it was in every case I was in the entire time I've been, all the way to the Tennessee Supreme Court. All of this is going all the way through.
Yeah, how are these things openly being stated as fact?
Because they are protecting this molester more than anybody's ever been protected in the world. And then they've made me a Sandy Hook shooter threat and the biggest threat to everybody in the world.
Take me back to the Sandy Hook shooter and them claiming that you're like a threat. I want to hear about that, and I want to hear about you getting arrested and going to jail. Where does that fall in all of this, and why did it happen?
In 2008, we know now, after looking at the testimony of what Carolyn Cohn said, that she got called in April of 2008.
Okay.
In June 29, 2008, my family went to church. They had a security unit up there. They'd sent me a supposed trespass letter. I'd been a deacon, so I understood the rules and how you do that.
Okay.
And one of the elders had written a trespass letter, but see, in June, everybody's gone on vacation. I'd sent a letter to them on the 25th, and literally the next day I'm getting a letter coming back. Nobody's there to have a session meeting. You can't do anything with the property of the church without the consent of the congregation. Take an act, a property act, without like sell it or do whatever, but trespass a property act.
Okay.
So you can't, so you got, there are 2,000 members in the PCA, they own the property. It's like a condominium, and you have a president of the association also. So it's not like the Catholic Church that owns it all. In the PCA, the members own it.
Right.
They actually own the property.
Okay.
So you're a trustee of it, but you can't go do stuff with it unless you go and get permission or consent. So you can't take an action without, and that's what the book of church order says. And I've been a deacon. I can't just go up there and run anybody unilaterally off the property whenever I want to. I'm not allowed to do that. If I was going to do that and permanently ban somebody for their life, I'd have to go in there and say, this is why I want to do it. Property members could agree. Session has to then approve it. And then you're able to do it.
It's a whole long process.
It's a little bit of process to ban people because the church its whole nature is to have the doors open, allow you to come. But this is trespass. This is like putting something. There are no street signs. You have to clearly mark property when you have people can't come in. You see public schools, they got signs out there, trespass. Police can go in and arrest you on this kind of stuff.
So what happens on that day?
So we went up there. There were about 6 guys up there at the front door, big guys. And they yelled my name out as we were walking up. I got a 9-year-old son, maybe a 12-year-old daughter, and my wife. We're going up like we've gone for years. I got the letter, but I knew the letter was counterfeit. I knew it was bogus and it had no power. And I called a cop friend of mine. He said, well, they're not going to do anything. They don't want a scene up there. You can go up there, and if they tell you to leave, just get in your car and leave. Don't make a scene, which is what I was going to do. Now, they'll see these people up here. Well, see, they're up there, and they know what they got. They know what they got. They've known it for months, and they want me out of there because I'd just written a letter to the congregation, 75 members of the congregation, saying, Jim, come clean on the scandal up here. I don't even know what all the scandal is. I just was talking about what had gone on from 2002 to 2006.
Going back to John Perry and all that?
We had the safe house and the kids.
Jim Bachman.
Yeah.
So you were calling him to say,
come clean.
Was this a public letter or private?
Yeah, it was a letter that went to members of the congregation, friends and people I knew. And I was calling on him. I'd been going back to church there, and I was hearing things, and I was saying, we need to come clean on this.
Was that out of order though? To just send it out to a bunch of
I wasn't my officer anymore. I'm not violating kind of your duties back there.
Okay.
And I'm not even a member. I feel like they need to know. See, they denied my congregational meeting 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
You can't keep stuff like this in secret forever.
And you weren't claiming that Jim Bachman was involved in child
abuse.
abuse.
I'm asking, I said, if you don't know if you don't know, then investigate.
Yeah.
But I'm just calling out of the pulpit, let's have some truth here. Because I was hearing, and so I said, that I'm out here spreading wild rumors and lying and stuff, and that's why I'm responding and writing the letter.
Okay.
Let's do it publicly.
Okay.
You guys want to run around behind the doors and say I'm a liar and say I've done stuff and do things start to hurt me, then let's get out here and get out in the wide open in front of the congregation like I asked a couple of years ago. Let's go here and talk about what's going on in here. Okay. I think that's transparent and airs things out.
Okay.
I want to be in churches more like that than one that's got a lot of secrets.
Sure, of course. Okay.
And Covenant's now the role model for everybody in the world. Don't do this.
It's strange that I guess it's not strange. That
it's an example.
It's an example. Yeah. Okay. So you get there. There's 6 big men waiting on you. They tell you to leave.
No, they yell my name out of Yoss Davis. I go, yeah. They obviously had pictures of me, knew who I was. I didn't know who them were. We go up there. They tell me, what are you doing here today? I said, I've come to worship God. And they go, not today, not ever. These men don't want you here. And I said, you guys need to get out of the way and let my wife and children go through. They hadn't done anything. And so they did. Well, they actually said, they said, I suppose it'd be okay for this Sunday. And I said, what do you mean supposed to be okay for this Sunday? What kind of place are you running? It's a house of God. The doors are wide open for anybody. You're telling me you suppose it's okay for my wife and 2 little children to come in? Were they threats? And so they go in, and they're
all
crying.
Of you, including you.
I didn't go in. They went in. Then the men leave me and go to the car. They get me in the car and they tell me if I ever come back there, step foot on the property, talk to anybody ever again the rest of my life that goes to Covenant, I'm going to be immediately arrested.
Okay.
I'd never had that happen in church in my life. Never had seen it done. Didn't even know it was possible for something like that to be done. All felt very unusual. Now I know that child sex abuse was being covered up, but I didn't know that then.
Okay.
Now my wife and children are in a building in Jonestown over here, little Jonestown, that I don't even have control over anymore. And they got guards and people in here. It's a little concerning.
Keeping Dad out.
Huh?
Keeping you out.
And they're in there with them, but I've literally lost,
Yeah.
And the people are in there, they don't know about any of this even going on.
Super weird.
It's very weird. And it's weird because churches are getting more and more security around them, and this gives narcissistic kind of pastors that are got a little bit of the God complex, and then they're maybe doing something they shouldn't be or whatever. It gives them a lot of power to go ahead and take care of that guy if he's asking bad questions in Sunday school class. not what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
All right. Now there's a video of you though walking in.
That's later on.
Okay.
So this is in 2008, that's what happens. We leave, we go down. I said, how am I supposed to get my family back? Because I'm now taking the car, they're up there. They tell me to call them, or I don't remember what exactly it said. They bring them, I think they told me they'd bring them down to Whole Foods. So I'm down to Whole Foods in Green Hills waiting for my family. I sit down there for like an hour. And then all of a sudden, here come the big black SUVs, about 2 or 3 of them. Got all these guys in there. They're all getting out. Some of them, my children and wife go into the store to buy some food to take home. And they're walking up and down the aisles. And they've got guys walking behind them up and down the aisles. And it's all done to just kind of lean on you, let you know.
Yeah.
Let you know. This is thuggery at its best. We just want you to know, Mr. Christian over at your church, Deacon, keep your effing mouth shut. That's what's done.
I get. Yeah.
I got it.
Crazy. Yeah.
And so then I'm out there and I've got guys sitting there with me and they're telling me, you need to just never come back again. You get it on you that you've been run out of a church and see at this time, I don't know that they're in there having meetings right behind this. And I don't know that the Nashville Police Department is going to come into a board meeting on July the 14th and brief the deacons and the elders, about 100 guys probably.
What year?
Right behind us, right behind July 2nd, 2008. The police come to my house a couple of days later.
Okay. You hadn't done anything else. You didn't threaten
And
anybody.
no, I left, and I asked them, "Is the police coming?" Nobody's coming.
Okay. Then
And so then I go and I'm at baseball practice. My team was getting ready to go play in the state. I had a Cal Ripken team, and we were out there practicing. And we left. My son and I went to eat dinner. Jay Alexander's over on White Bridge Road, and we just got our food coming to us. We're hot and sweaty. It's 8:00 at night. And we're getting ready to eat, and my wife calls me, and she said, there are 2 Metro detectives here. You need to get home now. She's really panicked, And I'm going like, what the hell, we're being police? I left. Why are police coming now? See, it is a bigger thing going on. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in the teeth of the Metro Police Department. And so we just leave. We go home. I get home, and they're waiting on the front porch for me. First thing the person says, Mr. Davis, I need to talk to you about your mental wellness.
Okay.
And I go, I'm fine. How's yours? And then we get in this long 2-hour discussion on the front porch. My son's, 9, I think at the time. He just like, what in the, just traumatized. My wife said that when they came, the beating on the door scared her. She just thought something bad had happened. She thought that they were coming to, tell us something bad had happened to us or whatever, a car wreck or something like that. And then she said all the questions were real invasive and, are y'all okay? Is everybody safe here? So what they're starting to do is make it look like, just like they had with the other guy, he's unsafe to his family. So they break your family apart. They start to decapitate the male, the head, cut his head off, and they want to take over your family.
Right.
So that's the move that's now being made to discredit me. And so, and this is a year after going back, this is a visitor. We had tried to get back in the church, tried to reconcile, tried to become members again, but they wouldn't let me become a member. They wouldn't let my wife come. She was a member. She couldn't resign. I wrote a letter resigning, but she wasn't really able to resign because I can't resign for her. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's all messed up and cloudy and murky, which is the way they want it. But anyway, so the police come. They tell me the same thing. If you ever talk to any of them, ever again, they're going to immediately arrest you. This is contact, talking to them. That sends it past the boundaries of the building now. Mm-hmm. And if you ever come back. So now I'm a walking person going to ball games and everywhere I'm going, football games.
Any member of the church?
What if I don't even know who all the members are?
Yeah,
the moment I say something to somebody, I'm going to risk in jeopardy of getting arrested.
Yeah. So that's when you're becoming a true pariah in the community.
Yeah, that's when they have in the board minutes, they've got a summary sheet that they're passing out to all of them and so they got a narrative that they're now pushing that's going out in school. So now my kids are out there at my son at that time was at Innsworth and my daughter was at Harpeth Hall, but now that's getting out in the community. And then about 3 weeks later, I'll get a phone call from a friend in Texas who used to go there. And it was my birthday, and they get me on the phone, and they asking me, did you go up there and try to shoot 3 or 4 ministers at the church? And I said, what? I never even thought of it. God, I was so shocked. What the hell are you talking about? And they said, well, they were wearing bulletproof vests up there, and they thought you were coming there to shoot them that day. And I said, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, it's just, and there weren't a lot of shootings back like there are now.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech had just happened. That was what the police, when they came, that was what they threw
I
out.
remember that. Yeah.
They threw out and they said, Mr. Davis, you did some writing. You can't be too careful about people nowadays and all this stuff. Virginia Tech. I'm going, Virginia Tech? What do you get people talking? What are they saying in there about me?
Yeah.
So then another reason you're not going is you don't, there's a nuclear destroyer sitting on top of that hill in the city of Nashville. It's got all the power and connections done. And now everybody can be going around talking about you as a potential shooter. So that potential shooter, when I go back in 2015, 3 years after I've reported to the police and everybody, after they've got a security guard, an armed security guard hired at the church for me that I'm hearing about from people they're visiting. And my reaction's kind of going to be when I'm out there and I start having friends call me and say, hey, they got a security guard armed up there waiting on you with your name on it. What do you think I'm going to do? When I can't get the media or anybody to report and I'm getting screwed in the courts and everywhere, I'm going to go like, all right, well, I'm going to have to go up to the church, right, and look them in the eye.
Okay.
So that's what I do. And I went up on in October, and there's actually recording.
So why were they preparing for you to come to the church with bulletproof vests and everything?
Because I'm in them old lawsuits.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot going on in the courts. There's a whole big game being played.
And
I
forget how long that had been going on.
Yeah, this is way later on. I've already filed lawsuits in 2013, and I'm gaining more information. So in 2015, there's an audio. Let's go to the recordings.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not sure what's going to place. Mind stepping outside for me real quick? That's what I'm talking about, okay? You're in the middle of a church service. I understand that, but I need to come outside. Man, I'm just trying to understand. Listen, they covered up a child molestation up here to protect presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. I'm telling you that. There's an article. That has nothing to do with anything I'm here for. I'm just telling you. You said you don't understand. I'm telling you. I don't know what I don't have anything against Mr. Sergeant Holly, but he's been told something about me, and I don't think what he's been told is true. That's fine, but you're worried about that, and yet so I don't know why you keep bringing it up. It's relevant. It's relevant. Not to whether you're. You should be hearing what I'm saying, and you should be going to Bellamy Boulevard and arresting a child molester who can still be prosecuted, and getting some of these guys and taking them with you. Well, you got a badge and a gun. I mean, it doesn't empower you to be God Almighty, okay? No, who's acting like that? They just tell me I know you mean what you say. I was trying to be a human with you. I'm telling you, I don't like what I see going in this country. They reported me to the police 7 years ago as a potential threat, like a shooter that went down in Charleston. I haven't done anything like that. You think that if I was somebody like that I would be sitting here with you guys with my hands up? That's not in my realm. I don't know what they did 7 years ago. I wasn't working. I'm just telling you. 7 years ago. Okay. Y'all interested in the child molestation? I would just like me to share any details with you. Since y'all are in law enforcement. That's been shared. If you've already told people about it, then that has made it through our sex crimes. So, what if it's been covered up in the police department? Well, I don't know what to tell you there. That's way above my. If it made the sex crimes, then that's who handles all that. So your issue would be with sex crimes or their superiors. The molester was an officer with me in the church. He's a big writer. Writes a lot of Christian books. Wrote 2 books for Mike Huckabee in 2007, 2008 to help launch Huckabee's presidential campaign. They were called Character Makes a Difference and Do the Right Thing. He confessed to the molestations, went out to Arizona, got treatment while the presidential campaign was rolling on. Huckabee was getting ready to go and be on Fox News. Get paid $3.5 million for the next 7 years. And when the first book came out in 2007, before the molestation, his name was on the front cover of the book. But after the police got used of him, and after everything went down in 2008, Perry's name wasn't on the cover. And he went through divorce. Bill Clark married the wife, and so it's interesting to see him down there being one of the guys that's heavily engineering all this.
About 3 or 4 weeks later, and my daughter wanted to go back up to church there. She'd been before that event with me. Mm-hmm. After we heard people calling us and telling us there's a security guard up there and your name's being mentioned, and when people would ask, there were some visitors and people that somebody called me one day and told me, hey, a visitor was there and they actually saying that this guy's here for you. And I'm going like, wow. And I just didn't like to be in the community and have people like actually naming me. Yeah, you're right. As we're here to guard against, Austin Davis. And so that's why I went. Yeah. But then I went and there was no, they didn't have any, they let me.
Why in the world would your daughter want to go back after all
because
this?
she's being abused elsewhere in the community and is completely ostracized. Due to this? Yeah, we don't, oh God, yeah. I mean, it's all out in the schools.
So rather than try to flee from it, you're going back to the belly of the beast kind of.
Just what she would come and say, Dad, and I just think there's this thing. I don't know. It's people can question all they want to, but if you're not getting any help from the media, not getting help from the courts, you're not getting help from the police, it's the very place. You don't want to be causing a problem, but it's like you have to engage in wherever it is and then let it play out. Okay. So we rode up there, my wife and my daughter. And we go and we get there. This is Sergeant Solomon Holly. That's the security guard.
You have been told by the congregations and men of the church and by Metro Police not to come here. Why are you here?
Because I come to worship God.
There's no written thing that's been filed.
Okay. Under Tennessee state law, and Metro Police told you this, and you recorded it. And they're on their way here right now. Okay, just to let you know. So, to not disturb everybody in here, you are being out here, I really appreciate it.
Well, I think they should know what's going on.
Well, they can know. There's nothing against the law about that. People can know.
So, it doesn't matter if there's a disturbance.
I'd like to go into the church service.
No, you were forbidden from doing it.
Oh, forbidden? They're forbidden from covering with child molestation. Are you kidding me?
Harassment.
He hasn't done nothing wrong except for tell the truth. All he's done is...
Don't videotape me.
It's all right. How could be can come take my place?
Right. When you're in public, you have no expectation of privacy. So says the Supreme Court.
So you have the legal right to arrest him.
Yes.
But you don't have... Okay, why wouldn't you go arrest the guy in the pulpit that's covering up child molestation? Are you kidding me?
I know nothing of that.
I'm telling you right now. So you can't say that you don't know anything about it because I'm literally telling you right now. Are you kidding me?
Okay, ma'am, you can leave.
No, arrest me. You want to arrest me? I swear. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, if that's what you want to do.
Seriously, I don't care.
That's what you want to do. You want to cause a scene?
Yep.
We'll cause a scene. We'll stay right here and we'll cause a scene.
That's fine.
In front of witnesses.
But you won't arrest me, will you? Because I'm 20 years old.
But that has... Sergeant Holly speaking. How can I help you? Yes. Yes. Do we have officers around? Okay. Thank you very much. 10-4.
Just calm down.
No. We just we're gonna have we'll have the officers come in. And she's wearing a blue multicolored dress and she's holding a cell phone. Okay, thank you very much. Would you let them, if you can let them hear the recording too, that'd be great. All right, 10-4. You're recorded too.
I don't care. That's why I'm recording it.
That's good. That's good. Like I said, the Supreme Court says that in a public place you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. It's okay.
Okay, he recorded me when I was on fire. Is that okay?
If that's what you think.
If this church wants to arrest women in Christ, it's fine.
People get arrested every single day in this country. is what it is.
Well, I would contend that the members did not vote to give their consent, and they're the property owners. Now, the law firm may have taken over the church and owns the church now, but these members in here have not voted on taking these kind of actions.
Okay.
So they own the property, and you can't do it unless you've got the consent of the owner.
So did they have a meeting and did they
have a law
vote?
firm that's representing them in these cases.
That is something to take up with the courts.
Well, we will.
That's something to take up as far as meetings and everything. That is definitely something to take up with the courts. But
I would ask that you not take it out on my family.
I'm not taking it.
I'm not saying the church. There are 2 women here, and we don't think they'll be arrested today. They haven't had any trespass notices. There's no sin. Yep. All right. Let me in. What's your stuff? What you got?
He's an armed security guard hired by Covenant Presbyterian Church in 2015. On this day, he's there. He's been there since months earlier, and he's a Davidson County Sheriff Sergeant.
Okay.
So he's with Metro, or the Davidson County, and now here he is now, and he ends up being on my second rig grand jury, and he's on there that indicts me.
He's on the jury?
He's on the grand jury, and this was brought all the way to the Supreme Court. And they said, no problem. We love having sheriff officers that are involved in the arrest of you. We like having them on the grand juries because it's easy to indict you them.
That's a conflict of interest. Big time.
Well, not in Tennessee.
There's no
That's just business as usual.
Okay. Wow.
And it's a good thing. You don't understand the good thing of that. That means we can get everybody indicted. There won't be anybody on there be able to not get indicted.
So there's nothing in the law prohibiting. They didn't break
There is.
the
You're not
law.
supposed to be on there. Law enforcement people shouldn't be on grand
It
juries.
shouldn't be.
That's a law, but I'm just saying we don't
They're
have law.
ignoring it.
You're acting like we still have laws.
Yeah. Well, I don't know which ones they take serious, which ones.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of people in America still think we're in the old America and we're in the new America.
Yeah. Part 2 with Austin Davis, Audrey Hale, and the Manifesto.
Writings left behind by the Covenant school shooter in Nashville could be released later today. The former student, Audrey Hale, who was killed by police at the scene in 2023, leaving a manifesto that has not been made public. Their written statement could reveal a motive. Jaxie Pigeon from our News Nation affiliate in Nashville joins us live with more. Jaxie, this is a critical and controversial day. Some people pushing for its release while others don't want this to see the light of day.
Absolutely, Marky. And it's not a regular hearing. What's set to unfold today is what's called a show cause hearing. That means there's no testimony and no witnesses. Rather, each plaintiff will present their respective arguments, and the defendant will be able to respond and cross-examine all before a judge. Now, in this case, it's Davidson County Chancellor Aisha Miles. She will be deciding if the writings of Audrey Hale should be made public. Hale left behind 20 journals, a suicide note, and a memoir. Media outlets, gun rights groups, and Tennessee State Senator Todd Gardenhire requested Hale's writings, and they were all denied under the Tennessee Public Records Act. They feel that information could help experts better understand what was in Hale's mind at the time and how something like this can be stopped in the future. Metro Nashville police argued they do not have to turn over the documents because there's a pending criminal investigation. Covenant school parents want to stop the release of these writings, too, saying that they could be traumatizing to victims and could also inspire future bad actors. Now, it's not yet clear if the chancellor will have a ruling at the end of this hearing, but we'll continue to have live coverage here on News Nation throughout the day.
Before we go forward more into the next thing that happens, let's jump forward real quick because I don't want to lose people here. What's going on today with the court case going on, the parents, and then your involvement? Because this is still ongoing.
Well, yeah, after the Covenant School shooting happened, there are all kinds of records down there, police records, everything, and there's the shooter's dead. So there isn't really an ongoing investigation unless there's something going on. And so the police have come back and said they can't release this information to the media organizations that they normally do. They can't release it to them because it's an ongoing investigation. Of course, the media is coming back and saying, well, who y'all investigating? What are you investigating? Because the shooter's dead.
Right.
So the police keep saying they're looking for something. There's something that they're investigating or whatever they're looking at. And
the police saying that now?
Yeah, nobody really knows what it is they're digging. And they said it'd take them about a year. Well, we reached the year mark, and now Tuesday, There's going to be another hearing Tuesday and Wednesday of this next week. That'll be April 16th and 17th of 2024. They got all these parties, and it's an army of lawyers on both sides, biggest law firms. Everybody's coming into the courtroom, the city of Nashville, the Covenant School, the Covenant Presbyterian Church attorneys. In my cases that I had, my civil cases, there were 3 of them with Covenant. The Autumn Gentry, who was with the law firm that was battling us, she's now switched over from the church where she battled in our lawsuits about the child sex abuse cover-up cases that we were bringing in 2013, 14, 10 years before the shooting. She's now jumped over. Now she's representing the Covenant School. She knows more about the child sex abuse than anybody, and she's over here at the front of the Covenant School now.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so there's nobody knows anything more about any of this than Autumn.
Wow.
And then
except for
me on
you.
my side. And so it was an interesting shift because she's represented the church. Now she's representing the school. When I saw that, I went, okay, they're over there really guarding the school now. And then you got the families. So the families have attorneys, and they've got an army of them. They've got some couple of ex-U.S. attorneys that are now representing the families too. Okay. So there are lots of attorneys. You got the National Police Association, I think's the name of it, firearms. You got the Tennessee, and you got the Tennessee Star.
Yeah. So there's a lot of hoopla at a year in.
And so they went and the people are saying, well, these families and people can't come in here. This is public records and things. They can't come in here and just because they have been involved in the case, they can't stop the release of these records. And so they've all ended up in court. And now they're trying. This never happened before. It happened in the Vanderbilt rape trial, I think, where a victim was protected to a degree, some of the records. But other than that, it's like it hadn't happened. Okay. And so they have. They're trying to establish that these people have a right to come in and block release of the writings. Now I can understand
block the release of the writings
of the manifesto, all of her writing.
Would that include hard drive, or is it just written journal entries?
It's going to include everything. They've got text messages. Okay. They've got
so it's the body of information.
Everything that they went in there and got out of her house and got. I mean, they were getting her father's computer, I think, and they're getting everything.
So manifesto is all of the stuff relating to this case that has to do with her.
Yeah, they go clean. They take everything based on looking at what they do, and so they're in there looking to see whatever they can find. Her computer, like she had like a bunch of computers, hard drives laying around. Yeah. Cell phones, laptops, journals, memoirs. I can't remember how many memoirs. She's written a lot. And if she had anything happen to her when she's younger, it's understandable girls do that. They write journals. You may not write journals. I don't know if you do.
I had a baseball journal.
I was going to say, but
nobody's after my manifesto.
But there's something, and so that's what that's what the battle in Nashville now is over, is what's in those journals.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, you get the courts like, we're going to, and now it's all redacted and only the judge, and they're giving them a page a day, and things are redacted, and the judge has to look at it, and then she's going to be the one deciding. So you got to really trust the judges and everything going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole country's sitting there, and the media is like reporting on it. But what's in what Audrey wrote? Yeah. And when she was talking to her friend in the text messages, she sounds very sane. She doesn't sound wild-eyed and crazy like the 3 pages that were released by Stephen Crowder at all.
Or released to him, but yeah.
Well, it was released to them, and it was released by police. Supposedly. And they investigated, and they hadn't found who actually did it. They can't figure out how many people are up there around that car?
Yeah, they wanted to make it look like it absolutely was not supposed to happen. We're going after these cops, which that gets all the conservatives that are good-hearted, but don't know enough about it to say, like, why are you going after those good-hearted cops that want to get that manifesto? We all should want that manifesto. Yeah. And so you believe then that those pages got to be real, and maybe they are.
I'm 90% persuaded just because they say it is, but I got a real big 10% that thinks those manifesto pages are made up,
or not, or they're selected. They're the pages that
there's stuff she says in it that make it. I mean, we were at school. I'm reading about the cars and some of the things being said in the language that's in there, and it makes me think either she has would have a split personality and there's a completely different person writing there, or of course we're Christians, so we would think she's demon possessed and the Spirit's writing through her in that way, or somebody else is making it up to distract everybody away from what's really in the manifesto, because it's bad. It's putting a target on the back of all these kids and things. And so then, it goes out and then they come back to court and say, we can't release this. Look at the 3 pages we released. Well, this is terrible. And so then that makes the manifesto not come out. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something in the manifesto.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Or writings. I'm using manifesto to cover all the writings. Sure. Okay. And so I filed a motion on February the 12th. And I went down there and filed an intervening motion just like they did. The appellate court said you can do that now. They gave all of the parties that came in that were covenant related. I'm a covenant school father. Next one, I designed this. I said, I know stuff. I think, and 10 months has gone by and nobody's mentioned one word about any of this in the media or anywhere.
So explain this piece to me. So the appellate court.
Yeah.
Is doing what, and you come in and say, hey, look at this.
Well, when the judge said it was okay for them to come in.
For who to come in?
For Covenant School, Covenant Presbyterian Church, and the lawyers for the families. Said, y'all have a right to come in here.
And that would include an ex-covenant family like you.
Well, I would think once that's been established and the appellate court has then ruled and said this is all okay.
Okay.
And they say you go back to ground zero and start over again. I'm sitting over here like, I'm the only guy convicted in court of being a Sandy Hook shooter threat to the school. So I'm scared of all the courts. I don't want to go down there that day I went down there. I don't want to put anything in. I wasn't even wanting to get near them. But I've got information. And I've got information about the child sex abuse and everything. And I want to protect these kids. And everybody's had a year almost to talk about it or do something. 11 months. February 12th is like 1 month shy. And so I'm sitting there and I really hadn't even ever thought about it. And I was sitting there watching the last hearing, and then this judge got up and he couldn't talk very easily about the case. And then he started, and they had all these side panels and things. Mm-hmm. And then he comes back and he starts asking questions about a document that he can't get to, that he can't even mention the name of the document to anybody that he's a client for. It's just all just layers of restriction. And when I'm listening to him talk, all of a sudden I go, oh my God, it looks like she's got a will. She's written a will.
Audrey.
Well, see, the parents are giving all the writings over, but if she's got a will or she wrote one down, I don't know whether it's a valid will, legal, whatever, but the police captured it that day. And it's on a list. Okay. And so that was when
Now, just so I'm clear, you're saying that she absolutely has a will, or you just think
it's now I've seen other documents that have come out in court saying that that's the way it's described.
As a will.
As a will.
Okay.
So see that nobody told us about that in the last 10 months. All of a sudden now we're finding out that maybe there's a will while the parents have already gotten by having everything given over to them.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
But yet those parents, like those ladies going around on the Tommy Lawrence show and others are saying they have access to, or it's been given to them, but they don't look at it. Those two ladies
know a lot about it. And
those two ladies say they've never seen it.
Yeah, they all say that, and they're getting supposedly briefings, but I don't know. Seems like a lot of people having access to the manifesto. It seems to be floating around that those pages are real.
And it would have to, a manifesto would have to be like a hard drive then that they put all this stuff on, said, okay, parents, here you go. Because they're not going to give them the actual journal pages. You'd have.
I guess I don't know what they're doing or what they're scanning.
It's really confusing.
But I'm just saying that they don't have, if like when her last thing to her friend, she said, you'll understand this better when you see the evidence. She used the word evidence.
Evidence.
And then their last word was, forgive me. And so it shows when I read and look at what she's not, they keep talking about mentally ill. She's obviously mentally ill. She's got something wrong with her, or she's troubled, or she's got problems. She's autistic. It's highly functioning is what they say. She's a smart girl. She went to school. She can write. She can draw. Even the drawings didn't match up. You look at the drawings on there. I think Audrey would be embarrassed by those drawings because she took a lot of pride in.
Well, yeah, I hear a lot of double talk. Again, I'm not meaning to harp on those two moms, but on the one hand, they're saying she's crazy. It's incoherent. She's not. It does nobody any good to read it because it doesn't make sense. On the other hand, they're saying they've never seen it. And on the third hand, they're saying these are meticulously well-made plans over 2 years with full school layouts, multiple schools. Yeah. She was deciding. So it's like you can't be both incoherent and really sharp.
Well, there's no opposing voice to come up and to really make an argument on some of the things that they're saying. It's not.
It's because everybody's afraid.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid that they're going to hurt a parent's feelings.
That's right. And the parents are really, I mean, they've had an unbelievable trauma. Unbelievable.
Sure.
I can't even imagine what these parents have been through. And then you're in a wounded kind of position. Then you're being brought in by the police that are hugging you and loving you. The very same police to me that had blood on their hands and have helped cause all this. Didn't protect, didn't come in there and do what they need to do. Let these parents come into the school that didn't ever have to tell them what they had done, and defrauded the parents as they're entering the school, because they all think they're entering into a school that's a sweet little school that's going to take care of kids. It's been covering up child sex abuse since 2008. None of these parents that are in there were even involved in the world back when all this stuff went down. But when they're taking on the tour of the school and bringing, you think they're telling them anything about any of that stuff?
Of course not.
And if they did tell them something about that, they might be telling them about me, and we got this crazy Sandy Hook shooter guy over here, and we've taken care of him. He's been prosecuted or whatever. And so they're over there feeling
He
very
spent
safe.
time in jail.
Yeah, but see, you're not being honest with them, and that's why I've said repeatedly in the last couple of weeks, the school's unsafe, it's corrupt, needs to be shut down. You cannot bring those kids back. And I asked the judge, that's what I wrote in the last thing. I wrote Wally Dietz, in the thing, I appealed to Wally, the Metro Law Director, and Judge Miles, protect these kids. I'm talking about the kids that are over there now, K through, it's preschool through 12. Through 6, excuse me. And then they're going to be moving back over in April into the building where it all went down. After the manifesto pages have been put out. Who in their right mind wants to put their kid into that?
After the 3 pages?
Yeah,
Okay.
when that's out there, and then every person around the country is going, and there may be someone else that wants to hate kids too. That doesn't make any sane reasoning to me. Everybody's talking about wanting to protect the kids, but I'm sorry, the school failed. It shouldn't have done what it did. We got some people up there that are now dead as a result of it, because there was a failure.
But as long as that story is unknown, the old story of abuse, and not believed,
that's right.
Those two things, unknown or unbelieved, then you're wrong. Because it's like, okay, you're not just going to burn down the building because a horrible tragedy happened. Maybe you do, but you probably do eventually move them back. But if there's an abuse cover-up, the way that you've described it, and that's true, then the school's failed and it needs to be defunct, and God knows.
You can't, it's tragic and sad. I designed the seal. I had ideas when it was done. I was hoping it's got established 2001 on there. 9/11 happened weeks after the school opened.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Just everything that's going on. But now it's up on this hill. Yeah. And it's where the Battle of Nashville was fought. Yeah. And it's just, you just go, and to me, it's like God up there going you know what? Things got to be done right. If they're not done right, it's time to close it down.
Okay, so let's pause right here. So we walked through the foundations of going way back. We walked all the way up to about 2015. When was it you were in the church with the security officer? And
this was 2015, November 2015.
That was in 2015. And I asked you right then to jump ahead and kind of tie it together.
Yeah.
So
and we jumped ahead, and when you're asking me about the case. What is this case? The case is that manifesto going to be released or not released?
Yeah.
That's the issue. And how much is it going to be redacted? And are they going to So I went back in. I said, okay.
Well, hold on. On what grounds did they deny you the first time? They can't just say nothing.
No, she just denied it. She denied it and converted it. But see, the denied it and converted it to an amicus, which makes you a friend of the court.
Okay.
Not a participant. See, nobody was going to call any witnesses when they were going to have this hearing on the 16th and 17th. You're not going to get anywhere. I want to call a witness. I want to get there and call the child molester to the stand. I want to get there and open this thing up. I want to get there and call some of the Jim Botman, the pastor. I have a list. I wanted to call some of the police officers involved in my arrest.
Well, I'm sure they'd all love that.
Well, I'm sure they did, but that's an open court.
Yeah,
it's a public court. This is where this is supposed to get decided.
Yeah.
No secrets anymore. We're going to get in there and find what's going on. Everybody wants to know what's going on here so we can write legislation and start passing bills. They're down there getting ready to, I think they've already done it where, autopsies. I understand why the parents don't want the autopsies released. I understand that. And I don't know if there's anywhere around it. If there was, I'd be solemn. I'd be trying to figure out what that way was. But to do it for everybody, there are too many murders, and I don't want the government doesn't need to have more secrecy that it can do. We already got corrupt enough it is. We need more transparency, not less transparency. So when you start like parents go there or somebody goes, so we need to see the autopsies over there. You don't think there hadn't been murders and things the police and everybody's involved in, and the autopsy records are really important. It might break open the case and let the truth be known.
Yeah.
We don't need to have that be
Wasn't there a bill that Jack Johnson put forward not too long ago? They called it the autopsy bill. At least that was the nickname for it. Where if a case was ever closed, that they could not reopen it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that was one of them. And then all the parents are down there and they're all testifying. I wasn't called to testify. My daughter wasn't called to testify. Some other people I know that got some cases that are tied into the spider web of child sex abuse cover up here in Nashville, none of them got called. If we're going to have an assembly and everything, let's get it down there and let everybody get it. We got all the people down there marching, protesting. That's great. I'm glad they're down there. But let's let them know. Those people don't know about any of this because the media is not telling them about any of it.
Yeah.
When they get in there and do what they're doing, they're actually almost supporting child sex abuse. They just don't know it.
They're supporting a false narrative by buying the wrong story.
What the media's told them.
Yeah.
They have no idea what's really going on there. So,
well, are we walking it back now?
No, I filed the motion, and so that got denied. It's been sitting there for 2 months, and then on April 6th, my mother passed away on the 5th, and the next morning I look at it, and you've got a copy of what it says where it's on a list, but it says an order denying the motion of my amicus.
Is it this one?
Yeah. Chancellor's order denying Austin Davis's motion to file an amicus brief.
Okay.
So that's an amicus that she created. I didn't. She exercised sua sponte authority. That's her authority. She's basically come. So this is important. She resurrects it. She denied it, which took away some of the things I'd been able to do. She resurrected it. Now she's denied it just before they're going to have the hearing on the 16th.
Okay.
And that is a motion that's filled with it's a child sex abuse intervening motion. It's coming to the court and giving them information at 31 pages and a sworn affidavit. It's giving them links pages. It's giving them like Candace Owens went on November 7th, said she'd been given a tip that Audrey Hale had been sexually assaulted as a child.
Amongst all of this inventory, what the source conveyed to me is that Audrey Hale claims to have been sexually assaulted in her youth when Audrey Hale was a child. And I think that is a very important and a very relevant allegation.
I put my stuff in where I'd gotten something and somebody told me that there had been an internal investigation in the church and the Covenant pushed it under the rug or covered it up and there was no prosecution. Well, I know they're not down there prosecuting kindergarten kids. There's got to be something going on if it's a level of prosecution. And so there are things that are, at least to me, in the middle of this kind of thing, be a little more open. I'll be asking more questions, not denying them.
Sure.
But they denied. And so what Judge Miles has now done is she is now, the manifesto's all locked up. Everybody's wondering why. It's been a year not seeing that. The Capitol's under siege down there with all the laws and everything everybody's wanting to do and fighting over everything in the world. A lot of chaos. All chaos come out of this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm coming down there and putting something in about child sex abuse at Covenant being covered up.
Mm-hmm. That could actually lead somewhere.
That's actually get proven. And you've got, some of these documents that you'll be showing. And people reading, they go, my God, there is child sex abuse down there. One of them's a judicial letter. There's one where the judge talks about it in the order. It's things that happen there. It's really been done. It's been covered up. The police got used on me. The police were part of it. They covered it up. They didn't expect there to be a shooting a long time later.
Yeah.
And so, that's now been denied because they're not going to let the manifesto out. It's already, they can't let the manifesto out.
Don't you think? Well, or they could lie. They're
going to try to let some of that, but they're not going to let anybody really go in there.
Well, philosophically, if you've got a group out there corrupt enough to cover up child sex abuse, well, they're corrupt enough to destroy evidence. They're corrupt enough to rewrite things.
They could be rewriting it now.
They could be buying time, rewriting it, making it look legit, and putting something out that's not even true.
Well, I think
legitimate.
I think that probably right now, the police have been putting a lot of declarations in lately about how the investigation's ongoing.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that we'll see the police come in or the city come in and say this is going to need to go on another 3 or 4 months, and therefore this is a moot point. We can't talk about getting this at all. And I think the judge will have to move back the time. And then what they want to do is they'll separate, and then Austin Davis will kind of fade away like a booster rocket.
And people lose interest.
And people won't know about that, and then whatever they got planned after that, because they have framed me, and I'm sure they would love to, make sure I'm not saying the things I'm saying, but I'm saying the truth, and I'm saying it in the church. This is the kingdom of Christ. There's some bad things that have gone on there, and I don't think he's pleased about all. I think if there's one thing I'd say about today, because I read things that people say, and so many people hate the church, hate Christianity, they hate things. They go like, see, it's all them Christians that are molesting these kids. Those people aren't Christians. People go around molest. They might be in the church. There might be some guy that's in there. Whatever. Christians aren't going to go around. True Christians don't go around molesting kids. They love kids.
Agreed.
True Christians.
Yeah.
The problem is they're seeing church people, they're seeing other things, they're seeing people use it as a shield. It's not the truth, and Christ is not a child molester. He gave a very stern warning about anybody that harms one of his little children. It's better to put a millstone around the neck and then be thrown into the depths of the sea. He's not mincing words at that point in time. Anybody that actually were to meet Jesus in person like he was, we're talking about a tough man. We're not talking about some wussy. We're talking about a guy that could get beaten unmercifully. None of us would ever want to go through what he went through. And so that's the way I see him, as a very masculine, tough guy that, is going to take this on.
Yeah, I feel you
and
on
I
that.
think he loves children. And it's like, again, I made that comparison to Unbreakable, and the person rised up. I just think Almighty God is watching, and everybody thinks he's died, or, like in the Elton John song, Leave On, New York Times says God is dead today. He ain't dead. He ain't gone. He's in Nashville. He's watching what's going on. That reminds me of the Phantom of the Opera up there in the church. The organ's back there. He's up there. He's in there, and he's watching all of the drama play out. And he's going to make himself known. And he's not happy about what's been done. He's not happy about what happened to those children. He's not happy about what happened to those teachers. He's not happy about Audrey and how her life turned out. And I mentioned earlier, I think it's a failure. It breaks my heart. What I'm saying is Christ is going to rule over his church. They're on his home court. People don't realize that stuff can move. What we're taping today could get out, and the next thing, 80 million people in the United States could see it. And they might not be happy about it.
You got a lot of pressure then.
You can't forget the American people. I went down to court one time, and I told them, they said, oh, yeah, you were the guy in here the other day in front of the Tennessee Supreme Court. Those are powerful people you're talking about. And I said, well, we're pretty powerful too. See, there are only a few of them at the top. They get elected by us. They go up there. Even if they rig the elections, we're still down here. You got to manage us.
Well, if you turn the anger of the American people where they really believe that this is a huge cover-up and it led to a shooting of children, something will get done, because you got the pressure of millions of people.
You look at Penn State, you can look at lots of cases where people, and so but see, if they don't know, and you do a great job of keeping them from knowing, and I've so long, I don't care about them anymore. Matter of fact, I do see them as an enemy.
Yeah.
They're getting people killed in Nashville. They're getting people killed because they're not reporting the news. Had they reported back then, Covenant would probably had to shut down the school back then, and it wouldn't be there, and those kids wouldn't come, and parents wouldn't come there and gotten deceived.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far talking about the philosophy of it all, so we jumped ahead. We talked about what's going on right now.
Yep.
Do you want to bridge the gap between 2015 up to today?
Well, I'll go back to it. 2015 is when I was arrested in the church. That was where they arrested me. They handcuffed my daughters over there. She's telling a Covenant armed security guard, who's a Davidson County sheriff officer, about the child molestation while she's standing there in the church, right near where Audrey later on goes in and shoots the windows out in the church. So you can see it down the hall a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't know that's going to happen in 2015 when we're in there. We're going to church. This is the kind of violence kind of being done in the house of God.
Can I ask you one question about that? Had that security guard said to you, go on in, Austin. So if he'd said, go on in, Austin, go on in to the sanctuary.
Yeah.
And you would have gotten in. What would you have done?
Sat down and gone and worshiped.
So you weren't there to say, Pastor Bachman, you need to be held accountable.
I'd been there 3 weeks earlier and gone down there and sat, and they came and got me. There's a recording of that. We played it earlier. Yeah. And so they came down there and got me at the end of the service. They waited till the end. They come in there to see everything they did. Remember, render to Caesar what Caesar, render to God is God. I mean, if I was a murderer or something, they want to come get me in church, that's different, but I'm not. I hadn't done anything. They come down there and get me the time at the end. They bring me out. They got to make a big scene. Everybody's got to see it. Take me out in front of the church. I stand there for like an hour. Everybody's gawking. Crowd of people over there on the phones.
In front of the church, you stand?
Yeah, right in front of the doors.
Okay.
Of the front sanctuary, the big sanctuary. And then they're over there, and I'm going like, I know they don't have any trespass signs up on the borders of the property.
Yeah, right.
It's a public Sunday church service that all visitors are welcome to attend. They hadn't put anything out that says except for Austin Davis. And then we end up, they put me in a car out there probably about where Audrey was shooting at police cars.
Okay.
Because the windows are over, they're up here, and then the cars are out there, and I go sit in the police car, and I'm watching everything going, and all the people, and they're all out there talking, and they finally have got me, and they've arrested me, and now they're taking me to jail to start booking me, and this is what really has been the main goal for a long time.
So you get arrested, though, that day?
I got arrested. I've been
let's keep it moving. We'll get hung on this.
I went down there, and there's the video, and then Holly, who's now Lieutenant Holly, has been promoted at the Davidson County Sheriff's Sergeant. And I don't even think it's Holly. He gets in it. He's been hired. He doesn't really know probably what all he's involved in. But he ends up being on my grand jury, my second grand jury that indicted me, that added the Covenant School in so they could get the indictment.
So this is the black officer that was in the video.
That's standing and goes, my daughter goes, so you can arrest him? And he goes, yes.
Yeah.
And he could.
And this was the guy that was on the grand jury for you.
And so he gets put in 2016 maybe, or maybe it's January 2017. He gets on my grand jury. And I've sent you the where you can see it and actually see the grand jury signatures.
Yeah.
And he's on my grand jury as a law enforcement officer indicting me, and he was actually involved in my arrest. That's how rigged it is. I mean, we are in such trouble when the government can do stuff like what they're doing, and they don't even bat an eye.
Did you know he was on the jury? I mean,
no, I didn't know they was having a grand jury. I mean, I didn't know. I don't call you and. I mean, they may let Trump go down to his grand jury, but I didn't get there to mine and go in there and talk or have a lawyer present.
That's unbelievable.
And so they go do that. And so then,
when do you go to jail?
Well, I went to jail then because they book you and everything. And then you get out. And then I went to trial in 2017. That's when I had my trial.
For that case?
For that case. Took about 2 years. They kept trying to get me to plead guilty.
That's one thing that's confusing in all this is just how long it takes. You sometimes think like, okay, you got arrested, you got booked. Then it took 2 years.
It could have gone faster. I wouldn't. Everybody down there pleads guilty. Pretty much. There are very few trials. And everybody goes, and usually it's these, and the system's down there just shooting people up. And so they're basically, get people that don't have lawyers. They got a public defender come in and say, you got a drug charge or whatever you got, and they plead guilty, and then they go to jail. I just watched it because I spent a lot of time in court. I learned a lot. I'm glad God put me down and let me see it. I'm glad I got to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail, but I'm glad that God let me see what's going on in there and what it's like. What kind of men are in there?
How long were you there again?
I was in 18 days when I went to jail, when I finally got put back in there after 2017.
And what was
conviction.
A charge? What were you convicted of?
Charged with aggravated criminal trespass because I was considered a threat to the church and to the Covenant School. So
that hinged on that 2008 letter was really the only thing that they could say.
Yeah, that's what they used in court on me, but I don't think the letters are good, but it didn't matter. I had a federal judge in there that was a covenant elder that came in there and started talking about Sandy Hook and stuff in front of the jury and said the mothers were concerned and thought I was capable of doing that. So that the Sandy Hook shooting, and this is after all the other shootings, Charleston's, the movie theater, there've been so many. And each time there'd be one, that would make it worse on my family, my children's school, because everybody's always going on, your dad's crazy, going to go over and shoot the church up. I mean, you can't, I mean, I would almost rather be cited for something else other than being a mass shooter, because they're not very popular.
Yeah.
And so I had a trial, and the first person who indicted me was a guy named Casey Moreland, Judge Moreland. And he's the one that bound me over to indictment. He had connections to the people that were lawyers and people in the case and the church. So he shouldn't have been my judge. But he after he bound me over for indictment, a few months later, he gets indicted by Jack Smith, who was the U.S. attorney in Nashville at the time. Okay. And Jack Smith is now the one who's indicting President Trump every day. And we're about ready to have a civil war over it because he's indicting him all over the place. So Jack Smith, they indict Casey Moreland, basically and it's like the only judge like that in Nashville. It's like the most corrupt. You know, he only got 3 years in federal prison, but he did get convicted. When it happened, what do you think the first thing I'm doing? I'm calling the FBI and leaving messages with them, because I'm thinking this is going to get my indictment turned over because this guy's really bad. And I already knew he shouldn't be my judge, but now he's being arrested for all this other stuff, witness tampering, destroying records and everything else. And so I'm writing Jack Smith, and I'm writing
This guy.
that guy right there. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm writing him. I'm writing the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I'm sending certified letters over there, and I'm trying to let him know. And what I'm basically doing is what Greg Lurie did to the PCA, where he's asking for relief because it's hammered. I'm knowing I'm over here in a really bad circumstance. Don't know yet about the rigged grand jury. I'm going to learn later on. I don't know about a lot of things. I don't know. I just know I'm being walked through the gauntlet. I don't trust any of it. I know that I'm being sheared. And so I'm begging him to intervene and maybe come in and look down here and help, because I think there's corruption. And he ignored it and turned a blind eye. And I've asked the question again, did Trump order him to do it? Because is Trump trying to protect people? These are just questions. Is he getting an order from somebody higher up that's saying, I don't want that, let that guy get destroyed down there? Or is Jack Smith down here and he's the U.S. attorney and going to him, and he's turning a blind eye to it because he doesn't want to do anything in Davidson County, which is Democrat. And he's Democrat. So is that the reason, or is it Trump? I don't know the answer to that question yet. But all I know is that I got tried, and my trial was September 11th, the anniversary of 9/11, 2017. And then the Department of Justice made an announcement that he was leaving the department for this incredible opportunity. They didn't say where it was, and that he was leaving, and he's gone.
Okay.
And so he's leaving right as I'm going to try. I've been writing for months and months and months.
Jack Smith.
Jack Smith is.
Okay.
Resigning from the DOJ. Take on this guy. I found out just recently, probably last fall, that where he went to is HCA here in Nashville as the litigation vice president. I went, whoa, he's at HCA? That's scary, because there's a lot of connections to people and power in town. And Senator Frist is at the HCA, and a lot of political power tied to HCA.
Yeah.
And a very powerful part. So then I'm going like, oh my God, Jack Smith's been offered, what's the incredible opportunity? We stayed there for about 6 months. So that incredible opportunity didn't hold him there. Then he leaves and goes on over where he goes, has that. And then out of nowhere, out of all the attorneys in the country get picked, he gets picked by Garland to be the special prosecutor. And I'm sitting there when I see that and I go, wow.
Merrick Garland.
Yeah, the DOJ, right. So that's his participation in a sense here. And then I'm going through, and I get, the judge comes in, does the Sandy Hook stuff on me. They're basically trying to tell everybody, I'm like Dr. Evil. And the jury stayed out 5 hours, which was pretty long on a trespass case. I've had lawyers talk to me, said they never heard of a trespass case ever going to trial in Tennessee. I told the jury when we got in there, before they knew all the child sex abuse stuff that was going to come up in that trial, I've been banned pre-trial that I couldn't mention anything about the child sex abuse.
How did they ban you from doing it?
They just had a Lyman motion or something at the other side. So they were handcuffing me and restricting me on what I could ask and do in trial.
Okay.
They just wanted me basically to sit there and not be able to say a whole lot, come in there, try me. Well, the trial wouldn't last in 2 days because in the very first person that witness that came in, a guy named Scott Troxel, the assistant DA was asking the questions, asked some questions he might not should have asked that took it back in time.
Okay.
And then when I got up, I said, what are you guys hiding? And they go, we're not hiding anything. I said, well, he's brought it in here. You're talking about the last 10 years. What have you guys been hiding over there at Covenant? Judge said, and he's arguing, you can't ask that question because he knows where I'm going. The judge finally said, what are you trying to ask us? I'm trying to see if he knows about the child sex abuse during the last 10 years at Covenant. He's an elder. He's the one that wrote the trespass letter. Come to find out, he ends up testifying they knew about it in 2008 because he's under oath.
You got him to... I'm surprised the judge didn't immediately say, you can't talk about it.
He's got a jury. They tried to do it, but they got a jury there, and that's coming on, and they're all like, what's going on here? Well, this is kind of serious. So, but the trial wasn't on the child sex abuse case, or I'd be having somebody convicted. It was on whether I went over to the church when they said he shouldn't.
Right.
And so, and people don't really like that. They go like, well, if you're told to like go over and stand on one foot and put a mask on, you need to do that. The problem is some of us are still Americans. And we don't like people telling us stuff to do if we got a right and a freedom to go where we want to go, and we want to go to a church, or we want to walk in a courthouse, or we want to go outside and breathe in some air. We're Americans. So that's that. They convicted me. A couple weeks later, I sent emails out in the Montgomery Bell Academy where I had someone in school. I put that out. Night of the NBA spaghetti supper.
Okay.
Brentwood Academy, them playing football game. I didn't write and send it to anybody at Covenant. I didn't use the directory like that. I was following what I'd been told to do. I went down through it and thought I was okay. And about 5:30, as I'm getting ready to leave to go over to spaghetti supper like I've been doing since I was a kid, all of a sudden, here come the lights. I actually went to the dog park, came back, opened the door up, and there are cops in my house. And they started handcuffing me and taking me to jail, saying I violated my probation because I contacted Covenant.
But you didn't contact Covenant.
Well, I didn't. If I did, I contacted something I didn't know about because I wasn't sending it to the Covenant people. But I also don't have a list of every human being in Nashville that's a Covenant. So they put me in jail for 18 days. When they brought me back in, I said I didn't send it to them. And I'd actually gone through NBA and tried to edit anybody I knew, you know. And so, and I think I have a right to warn parents and tell them stuff like that. I would hope to be warned myself if there's something going on. But they had to get me in jail and silence me and put me in and do what they did to me. And so there are multiple cases. Covenant's one of them. It's the main one I'm in. But because of people and some of the spider web, it spikes out and touches other places.
Yeah.
On March the 17th, I sent an email out. To the actual Covenant School faculty and many other people, because this is my normal routine. And I had the article in there. I had the link that I created in there about Brad Jory and NBA, and then had some stuff in there about Covenant and other things. But it was really, for the first time, putting out, this is a school that's now admitted that they did something, or that this happened under their watch. There's a plaque at the school. See, all these other cases, like people are complaining and then the cases go away and they get buried in the court and whatever they do. But now there's one really tied, and I could actually show how the headmaster over here, who's been down here, is picking up the phone, getting the police, and they come get me and throw me in jail and put me on a probation for a year, adding to it. And they added NBA to the list. And I couldn't contact anybody at NBA, so they're expanding and widening always.
It could have been, it sounds to me, any prolific, well-known school, especially private school, that you would have sent an email to warning them about Covenant.
What now?
I feel like they would have added any school.
Well, yeah, but they did this to that. They didn't mention the Brentwood Academy wasn't in it.
But you didn't contact BA.
Yeah, I put stuff in there about BA because the rape case was part. There was a 3-year-old. There was also in that link. There was a 3-year-old at Fellowship Bible out there in Brentwood that had been raped in the bathroom.
A 3-year-old?
Yeah, and then there's a second 3-year-old. If you go to Jane Speaks Up, the website, you can read all about that second mother. That's never come out and been made public. So these secrets are out here. And thank God there's some people that put their blogs out like I do so we could all find each other. Then we start talking, my God, that happened to you over there. And these are all like churches and schools locally right here, and the parents are getting connected. So they want you alone. They want you in court. They want to put gags on you and ban you so you can't say anything. We're busting out. People are talking. They're getting connected. They know each other. There are more of us. And there's more out there in the woodwork, and it's going to come out, and they're going to read. I'm getting stuff. I got a message from like Colorado, and a kid wrote me and said, hey, I lived there and something happened to me back then. Would you mind? You know, and so you get things like that. There are tips coming in.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I sent that, and that was on March the 17th, and it actually went to the Covenant School faculty. I think they were on spring break. I'm sending stuff all over the place. They're not the only one, but you know, I would constantly let them know because they're sitting at a school where this stuff has gone down, and they got kids that leave there and go to NBA. And also, I'm just constantly putting the information out.
Okay.
And so then they probably came back from spring break, and I've heard that they had a bad guy drill that week. Jim Botman got on CBS News and said, I heard they had a bad guy drill last week. Well, I don't know if that was because I don't know how to create hysteria or whatever, or do something, because I've now come in and given them a real case. It's got a plaque, you know, and then all of a sudden teachers could see it and go, oh my God, there's another one down in Darlington. Because those teachers have been getting stuff from me for a long time. The faculty.
Okay.
All right. And so they may be in there having to do something. I don't know. But I heard there was a bad guy drill that week. And then the next week, the shooting occurs. And I remember we're getting I got a text from my family and they sent, and I thought, I thought I couldn't believe it. I was going, what are you talking about? Because Covenant was the safest place in the world. In a sense, it really was. I mean, but other than making hysteria about me being a Sandy Hook shooter, I wasn't a Sandy Hook shooter. Didn't own a gun. They didn't have to worry about anything. So that place was a nice place up there, But if you're having some other stuff going on that you've hidden, or there's somebody else that's really been hurt, or whatever it is, then you could have something happen, and that appears to be what may have happened here. I don't know why Audrey picked Covenant. And all the police keep saying there's multiple sites. The 3 pages, I'm not really sure are true. They don't seem like they're talking about other sites. Autistic people are kind of focused on narrow things. They get focused on, I'm not sure she'd be thinking about multiple sites.
You believe she was autistic?
Oh, yeah.
What do you believe about her home life, her personal home life? What do you know?
Oh, I feel I feel sorry for their. I don't know them that well.
I don't mean now.
I don't really know them. They used to be at events and things. She was in a class below my daughter, but my wife, knew the mother. The mothers would know each other more. We used to go to chapel. I used to go over there myself and go to the little chapel service. If Audrey was going to shoot 500 people, whatever, she was going at 8:30 in the morning when they were having chapel. She knew when chapel was. So all the stuff they say about it, she wrote about the playground and didn't go over there and shoot the kids on the playground. Because even one father that was in a news article said that they just couldn't believe it. He didn't understand why. It almost was like she had a purpose where she was going or what she might have been doing. And I don't know. I have my own suspicions about it. I think something happened. People want to talk about trauma or traumatized. I think something may have happened to her when she was there. Maybe up in a particular room. It may be up where she was headed to a particular place. I don't know.
Okay.
But it just seems like if her attempt was to go kill every kid in the school, that she would have maybe gone over to the playground first as she rode by, stopped and got out of her car and
of course,
done that.
Yeah.
Or she would have gone at 8:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock when they're in there, and all the parents would be in there. And so
there was intent with her direction and movement.
So it's such a macabre kind of thing to think about. But when you're looking at it, there's a lot of things that get said about what she's done. It really, God was merciful that it wasn't 300 people or something, because it could have been, if that's what somebody really was doing. It would have been a lot of people. If you're armed as she was.
Yeah.
And so it's just. That followed. Then I got 2 days later, I got a tip. Well, I actually had reporters calling me from all kinds of places. I had a hard time talking to them. I don't trust the reporters, number one, but I just didn't have a lot to say. They'd asked me. They really weren't interested in this other stuff. They just wanted to know, was she connected? At that time, I hadn't looked at it enough, and I didn't know. I hadn't gone back. I'm good at going back and connecting dots. And I hadn't gone back and kind of looked at things. Now I had something new to kind of start thinking about. I do think there's something based on the tip I got about there being an internal investigation. And that was sent to me by a reporter who's pretty reputable.
And the Daily Beast reporter?
Yeah, I don't think he'd write that down on paper and be lying to me, trying to trip me. What's he going to get? Why don't you just call and tell me? It's like in writing.
Yeah.
And he's telling me one of Hale's relatives told him that she was brought in for an internal investigation. It was covered up. And no prosecution. So that happened in 2006, right? And then she's leaving the school. And that's something that the judge and them, maybe they've read the manifesto and the judge isn't going to tell us she's behind the camera and she's going to come out and go, well, that didn't happen. But it'd be nice if there was some way to have somebody like me go in and read all of it. And then I'll come back and tell you whether that happened or not. See, I don't trust them. How do you have the people that are involved in a cover-up already be the people that are handling all the material and confiscating all the documents?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. What do you think about, this may be jumping to a different part, but again, our time's getting shorter.
Yeah.
What about Gabrielle Hanson's claims early on, what she had to say about it? Where do you stand on all that?
Well, I did not, I wrote about it in that manifesto piece. I listened to what she said. I wanted to know who told her, because she said she got a call in 30 minutes.
And go over that real quick. A call within 30 minutes. She got a call.
She got a call.
Kind of
she knew
strange.
exactly what happened. She knew everything happened. Love triangle. That Audrey had been down there counseling. was in some kind of counseling or something.
Which Jim Bachman had said in his first interview.
Well, he said he was the one that came out and said that first and dropped that out. And then went back on the Inside Edition, said more, the bad counseling or whatever he did. And that, the shooter was going and trying to get either him or, somebody in his family and that kind of thing. And it just, but see, Jim knows something. He was back there then. Mm-hmm. Then he comes out the next day and says, oh, yeah, by the way, that wasn't really what happened. Counseling was done years earlier. As soon as I heard that, I went, uh-oh. And I know some people at the school that were there at that time. And there's some things that Chase Smith wrote an article for the Epic. Is it Epic Times?
Epic Times.
And he wrote an article. Chase wrote a good article about bullying, and I would advise people.
Bullying at Covenant.
At Covenant, yeah.
Okay.
Because everything was about the culture being great, and then Chase wrote an article showing that they wasn't so great. There's some issues back there. Now that those kids are a little older and they're talking about it, they're looking back and going like, why are we getting called out and brought in these meetings and getting talked to alone, asked questions about our home life and things like that, Just things that started coming out afterward that make you start going, there's something not quite right. So she was down there and she was getting pulled out and asked questions or investigated or whatever. Mm-hmm. There could be something going on there. But see, the Covenant doesn't want you to see any of the records.
The manifesto could even talk about that.
Yeah. They don't want to see any records, any of the counseling records, nothing.
The other missing piece in this that could just kill it and really help you get the story out would be if any of these other kids that have been abused spoke up now.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching what we've done so far. Now, I cut that off right there because we got a limited window of time. I wanted to get on this before it got too late, but Austin Davis is on the line right now. And I've got a lot of great questions, not only from the Rumble live chat, but also some other channels where people have been watching. They've been sending me questions. So we're going to ask some of those right now. And on top of that, this was made, I think I said 2 days ago in the intro, but not the truth, because I was I was being honest in the intro, but I think it was actually a little bit longer than that. And right now there is an open records case going on in Nashville about this manifesto. And, I didn't get to watch it today. I was very busy. I think Austin did watch it, but Austin is on the line right now. So I'm going to bring on Austin Davis here. Austin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I think everybody else can too. And let me make sure. Yep. Sound check is good. All right. So Austin, first things first, thank you for coming on. That was fantastic. You gave not only a very long history there, which I think humanized your past in this whole thing, your daughter, your wife, your son, going back to the early days in the church and the school. So I appreciate you doing that. But moving toward all the way to today, there's an open records case going on. I remember asking you on, by phone earlier, I was like, what does that even mean? What is an open records case and how does it apply to the manifesto? So if you don't mind, share with us about that.
Well, first, thank you for putting that together. That was we spent a long time that day talking, and we were all over the place. I wasn't sure what was going to come out of it because I hated the fact that you have to do all the editing that you did to put it together. But that was really a pretty incredible presentation. So I appreciate your talent doing that.
Well, you're welcome. And one thing I want to say, I put in the show notes that I did minimal editing, but I think I cut out the stuff where we got into personal stories that did not affect this, but I think I kept the meat of what we discussed.
I'm more talking about where you drop things in, seeing pictures and documents and things. I mean, that's also some of it. So anyway. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I was impressed, and I've lived through it. And I thought, golly, who is this that this is happening to? This will be on the screen. So anyway. Okay.
All right. Well, tell us about the open records and the what's going on right now in Nashville.
Well, whenever there's a crime or anything that's involving the government, there's records that the police or people have, and a lot of times the media or people have to file what's called a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, because they're trying to get information from the government and get it released. And America was founded on a lot of transparency and openness. We're not a communistic country yet.
Well, we didn't used to be.
Yeah, we're getting closer, but secrecy and then covering everything up and secret government. I mean, it's not the original concept, and so everything's been transparent, lights, all these things that we're supposed to have. So when people would put in the FOIA request, and then the police would not provide them what they wanted, then they would go get a lawyer, and then they'll go down there and file a petition to get access and obtain those records. And normally, it'll be the people filing, and then like the city, the Metro Nashville law represents the police department of the city. And so what happened in this case that's been unusual is that the church and the school and the families came in as interveners. They filed a motion to intervene, and then the petitioners were complaining about that, going, wait a minute, these are public records. Why are they coming in and trying to block us from getting these records? But the judge allowed it. Then it went to the appellate court, and the appellate court ruled that they could come in and intervene and gave them the ability to do that. And then I, of course, came in on February the 12th and filed my own intervening motion because I'm a Covenant school father that was a child sex abuse whistleblower internally and got put in jail. And, none of that, it's all covered up. And so I filed my own motion, and it's all about the child sex abuse cover-up and all those kind of issues, the 32 pages of exhibits, links, all kinds of information to back it up. And when I filed it on the 12th, Judge Miles denied it the next day. And then she used her sua sponte authority to resurrect it, and which means she's really breaking of her own power as a judge after she's denied it. And then she created as an amicus, and she gave everybody a chance to respond to the motion as an amicus.
Right.
Well,
Which you discussed this on the show, so I don't want to rehash what we've already discussed. What?
I don't think I've talked about this yet.
Okay, go ahead.
None of the petitioners responded. The ones that are out there. The only thing that responded was the city of Nashville, which said I had basically a personal interest and should be allowed to come in. I'm bringing child sex abuse cover-up information to the police department of the city, and they come in, and they're saying I got a personal interest. And so that was all they said. And then the Covenant Church, Presbyterian Church, they came in and recited all the, basically I've been convicted of a crime and it was a trespasser, regurgitated all the bad things that had been done that were illegal that they got adjudicated. And then the Covenant school attorneys, they said that I was, basically it was alleged child sex abuse. I'm a conspiracy theorist and all those kind of things.
Of course.
And the families did respond. There was nothing that came from their lawyers. They remained quiet. And so it went that way till April the 6th, and then Judge Miles denied my amicus motion right before the kids were put back into school yesterday, or I guess Monday, Tuesday. And then the hearing started today. And, of course, I was the only person, again, if you look at all the motions that got filed, I think I'm the only person out of all the lawyers and all the parties and the schools and everybody that's coming in to get involved in this case. I'm the only person that's banned it out of the case. And that tells me that what I gave them is important, and they see nothing at all whatsoever in anything I gave is of importance.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Anything else before we move on to the next question?
Well, I think when I watched the arguments today, and it bothered me, they were up. Nobody's wanting it. Nobody wants to ask for the school security information. They're all the petitioners are kind of like, no, we don't want the security information. All the church and the school, they don't want to give any information about the security information because they have to start turning over emails or all the stuff they've done. You can clearly see from that video that they had security, and they never got security for the church. I mean, the school. They had it for the church, but to me, it's negligence. I mean, they're up there convicting me and charging me, prosecuting me, but then they never went and got any security for the school. Mm-hmm. And then somebody actually comes up there and 6 people are dead. But there was nobody in the apparently nobody in the building that had a gun on them or was there to resist or anything. And so, and so the security is a big issue. If I'd been in there and they let me in, I'd be wanting to know about their security stuff. I want to see it stuff. I know all the police, everybody don't want anybody seeing it, but I would do it because I want a dangerous school. I think it convicts them. I think it shows what they've been doing in there and what they hadn't been doing and just how bad it was, because that's why this place is unsafe. It's had corrupt leadership. It's covering up child sex abuse. People have been killed. 3 9-year-old children have been killed. Mm-hmm. And they're recruiting and trying to bring more people in for next year to try to get more teachers, and it's just running along like business as usual. That's insane. So that's my opinion.
Yes. Okay. Well, all right. The next question is the parents. This is from one of the listeners. The parents have had an unbelievable trauma, as you said, Austin. How do you ask hard questions about this case and push for the manifesto to be released when the majority of parents are saying that they don't want it released?
Well, I think if we could go to where Jonestown was and get inside that circle where Jim Jones was over telling them and had the security people around them, there are probably 900 people that might still be alive. So when I look at Covenant, I don't look at a normal, healthy church. I look at a church that's got bad leadership, got police and the DA. DA prosecuted me, his sister-in-law, has been working at the school since 2001.
That's amazing.
And so I look at a really, really messed up place. And a lot of those people came in there and said, these people weren't there back in 2008, 2012, 2000. Hell, they might have been there in 2015. So they knew, so they've been told certain things, they've been conditioned. It's almost like you're grooming a bunch of people. These parents are traumatized. I don't see it that I'd be asking questions. They're tough on one of them. I think that if they would listen, and I'm not contacting them. I'm not trying to. The only person I've contacted is Elaine Eisinger, who's in the legislature with Representative Bo Mitchell, I think, and she's down there. And I wrote email to there, and Connie Ridley, who's the legislative affairs person, where she sent it over to them. But I'm too scared to contacting those people directly or say anything to them, because I know that they're looking for an accomplice and they're looking for anything they could to like arrest you for harassment or whatever. And I'm just not wanting to give that opportunity. So, but I think that I would be their best friend, because I think that there are a lot of people out there that don't really know what's happened, what's going on. And if they have, I think they've been lied to. Yeah,
that's a good answer, because most of the elementary school student parents are of an age where back when, what you have alleged has happened, they would have been children themselves. So,
it's fraud.
What's that?
What they're doing is they're committing fraud at the school. And now their image is that Covenant strong and the whole world is with them, and they're going to go out and save the whole world with their message and everything, And this is all being tailored by PR firms and law. Everybody that got us to push this narrative of the Titans are. I understand. I mean, I think I'm talking for the little kids. I'm glad they get to see the Titans and get to go do those things and get the anything that be done for them. But
sure,
you're projecting a false image into the city. And now all the schools, they didn't think anything. They're going to every school. Today they were in the court and they were saying that all these other schools are now in other words, Covenant's doing something really bad is drawing other schools into their web. Some of them know, but it's a lie. It's a sinking ship in a sense. Today you're endangering the other schools. I mean, everybody's got that security.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed Nashville, and that's tragic. And I wish we could go back to the way we were. I think we could if some right things got done, and people could. If bad things happen, you got to start doing right things. You can't keep doing worse decisions and then have something else happen. It's just it's insanity.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's good. There's questions I want to ask you to do a back and forth, Austin, but at the same time, there's other really great questions I want to keep going. So you mentioned PR. Well, speaking of PR, this person writes, John Perry, without proof of guilt, your story falls apart. And Carol says, you mentioned that John Perry's name was on these books that were, whether it's Mike Huckabee's books or Franklin Graham's books, and then that all of a sudden they were removed from those books. His name was removed from the books. Do you know anything about that? Because that has to. So something must have shaken those publishers and authors to take his name off of those books. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I went and looked at the covers, Now, the problem is over time they'll go in there and they'll change things and stuff will disappear off the internet. Franklin Graham did not want him. If you read the lawsuit, that was supposedly a big point of contention. John wanted to be on the cover. He's now arrived. He's doing Billy Graham's final book. This is in 2007. I think he either almost was finished with it or he was delivering it at the Billy Graham dedication ceremony. In like probably like May 31st or something in Charlotte, North Carolina, with like I think 3 or 4 presidents. It was like Carter, Bush, who else? There were several of them that were there, and Franklin Graham and Billy Graham.
Okay.
And so John Perry was invited over there as a guest, and he's reached the top. He's writing a book for the greatest evangelist in the history of the world since Paul. It's global. The 2 most famous people in the world back then were Billy Graham and Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm talking about the world, not here, but like people around the
Sure.
world. If you said their names, or they knew who they were. He preached to 1 million people. I think it was in China or Korea. I think it was in Korea, maybe.
I remember.
1 million people.
Yeah.
So I think that the other person, like he finished the book, they bought it, he got paid. This one was in a lawsuit, and then they held it because they didn't know when Graham was going to die. And I think he died right after I got out of jail. And then they put him in the rotunda. He may be the only person like that got put like in the Capitol, the rotunda and stuff, And then the book came out. I think it was in May. And when it came out, the lawsuit was filed the next day. A $3 million lawsuit was filed against HarperCollins and all them. And then later on it's removed, so we don't know like if they made a settlement or whatever, because that'd have been a big scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else's name's on the outside. I think that most of it was, this is my opinion, I think he wrote most of it, did most of the work. I think they had somebody else come in and add a few things to it, and then they put the other name on it because they owned the property. He was a ghostwriter.
Okay.
All right, but on the Huckabee thing, he's written a couple books for him, and I think one of his name was on the cover, and the other one it wasn't. But there was something you said at the beginning of that question that if you could read that again, I want to address that because I want to make sure I understand what they said.
No, they said without proof of guilt, the story, this whole story about John Perry and child sex abuse, it really cannot stand.
Was it saying that I don't have the proof or guilt?
Well, I'm just reading the question. Then they said, first of all, his name was on the books, then removed. So I think this person's on your side, but they're looking at that in terms of why did these publishers or authors or kind of who made this decision or how would it have reached that level?
Okay. Well, there is proof. I'm just saying there is a judicial letter that was written to the DA after I was at a $2.1 million default judgment because I wouldn't give discovery to the attorney. I've been there dealing with a child molester's attorney trying to get discovery about my friends and who I've contacted and taught. Hell, I'm getting arrested and get thrown in jail. You think I want to give everybody else's name to these people? So I was adamant about it, and I told the judge I ain't give it. And then they gave me, and I don't blame the judge. He's up there, and I'm being defiant about it because I just said it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I took the hit. And I took a $2.1 million hit, which I don't have, but I've got a judgment over it. Destroyed me financially. I mean, I will never recover from it.
Did you have to pay that?
No, I don't have to pay it, but I'm going to live on a little Social Security check, and everything else got destroyed. We lost everything. We lost our wedding rings. We lost everything.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, it's just, we're here, we're Christians, and, we're not going to take it with us, but it's brutal. To go through when you're used to living a little bit different life, and you just stick to your guns and you just get crushed and go to jail and become a salient shooter, get a $2.1 million judgment. That's what I'm saying. They're looking now. I bet they're down there trying to figure out what's the next thing they could do because they don't like me telling what happened.
I'm laughing because as you say that, there was a question that came in from one of your naysayers. I'm going to ask you a hard one here, okay?
All right.
All right. Austin, you're playing the victim for 15 years. These are good men that you're smearing, and the evidence on this show about John Perry is just from one woman. How do you sleep at night?
I think they should all be arrested. I think that instead of them letting them keep those records up there, the FBI and the police should have gone in and shut that place down, put people in handcuffs, take them out of there. They got 6 people up there dead. We need to find out what happened to Audrey, and that's my answer to whoever wrote that. And it's probably one of the elders, and I hope they put some cuffs on them and lead them out. There's got to be some kind of example for this. You can't go around and do this in God's house. He's like King Kong. You want to do this kind of stuff and play around in the church and do the kind of stuff these people have done? It's disgusting. And they're not, and people like that aren't Christians. And people say, well, they're your brothers. They're not my brothers. My brothers, you're my brother. You're more my brother to me than they are. And I never went to church with you. I hate to sound bad about it. I just, when I hear something like that.
No, I understand. Yeah, but I want to understand that. What about the part where they said the evidence on this show? So I don't know if this person has seen a lot of your work, or I don't know if they've seen just this show. They said on just this show about John Perry is from one woman. I assume they're talking about, I think her last name was Cohn. She was a psychiatrist, right?
Well, she's a child sex abuse expert witness.
Okay.
She was the one that handled the counseling. And, unless she's committed perjury and got on the stand and lied in court and everything. But the judges didn't seem to that. One of them, and the victim came in and testified. And there's a judicial order where Judge Kelvin Jones wrote there and said the victim. I mean, the judges were shocked when they came in and actually walked in the court and testified in court and said, yes, I was molested by John Perry. It's all on the internet. It's all on the website. They just have to go work and read. Instead of calling in or writing in and making silly statements like that, because they're protecting Covenant, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're protecting a place that's really done some horrible stuff, and the whole world is looking at the consequences of it.
Just so I'm clear, though, because I'm just now becoming acquainted with some of these things. I felt like Catherine Cohn, is her name Catherine Cohn? Is that right? Caroline Cohn. That part of the show was very powerful. You
just got one thing. There's a judicial letter from Judge Thomas Brothers where he wrote it and sent it over to D.A. Funk after the $2.1 million was given. He literally the very next morning he sent the tape recorders over. He said, Mr. Davis is saying that police have not done this, and I heard the testimony, and he's telling in the letter what testimony he heard because he was concerned. But he's a civil lawyer, so he sends over to the DA. Well, of course, he sent over to D.A. Funk, and at the time, I don't know that Diana Apple is D.A. Funk's sister-in-law, and she's over at the Covenant School. But he's going to be the guy helping get me indicted, and he let a lot of other people off on the indictments and people that have trespassed and everything. I could name them. I'm not going to name them right now, but he's been doing a lot of things where he's letting other people off. But on me, I ain't getting off.
Yep. No,
they got to make sure they put it to me. So, but that's a judicial letter. There's a judicial order. The church itself excommunicated John Perry. They had a court process up there. They excommunicated him for heinous sins. Heinous is the word they're using, the cover word for the child sex abuse.
Now, would this have been a meeting that happened where they excommunicated him behind the scenes, or is this public?
No, it's read publicly, and it's inside the solid bell. If you go in and read, you're going to ultimately come across and see the excommunication paper where they read it. They called it in. They didn't excommunicate him until 2010 in June, and they had him in there for hell. They'd known about it since. Pastor Jay Hager, he was in the summer of 2007. He was one of the first people told. He's the youth pastor. And he got told, and he's a Covenant School father right now. He hadn't come out and said anything. He hadn't come over and said, "Hey, wait a minute, Austin Davis is telling the truth." He's down there right in the middle of them right now. There are a bunch of people that are in the cover-up. They're in the school. That are parents. All the faculty know.
Now,
I don't know what they've been told by the police or how they've been worked, but they've been informed. They've been sent things. Their people know. There are a number of the parents that know.
Now, at a philosophical level, when you say that's a strong statement. all the faculty know. I'm sure that a lot of the faculty are 30 years old, you know.
Yeah, well, the faculty, because I've got a list of the faculty and I've sent emails to them. But I don't know about substitute teachers because I didn't even know there were substitute teachers up there like that. And so when Ms. Peak got shot, she's up there, but I think she's a substitute teacher. But I never sent her an email because I didn't know she was. I didn't know she was in there subbing.
Okay, I'm going to go down a few more here. Austin, what do you know about Charis Ministries, which is run by the husband of Catherine Kuntz? And if you don't know the answers, that's fine. I've never heard of this myself.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, we'll move on. Do you believe that Audrey was hunting Pastor Scruggs?
No.
Okay. Anything more on that?
Yeah, I think Jim Botman. I know Jim very well, and I think Jim. I mean, it was shocking. He gets out on literally, I think it was the day after the shooting. He's early in the morning in the dark, standing in front of the church. Church that in 2016 they had a brutal all-day meeting up there, and the congregation split. And they voted, and he was the founding pastor. That guy, I'd always been told that he would never be gone. But they voted and they got him out of there. The problem is they split up into two churches, and the people of Covenant never came clean on what was really going on there. So it was more deception by the leadership. Then he's over to the other place, Stevens Valley, where he is. And so what he does is he comes around over there that morning. If you go back and watch the CBS Morning News, and he tells Bertlam, I think was his name, the reporter, he's over there supposed to be getting interviewed about Mike Hill. He's supposed to be in there talking about the janitor and Big Mike and their friends. And Jim's real kind of easy going and, oh, shucks, Jim. It's like Andy Griffith or something.
Sure, right.
But then before they went on the show, he slipped a little tidbit to him and said he heard that, I think that the shooter might be going up there to, look at, trying to get to the pastor or whatever. Just floats that out. And so the guy said, hey, before the show, you told me about, the guy, the shooter may have been looking for the pastor. And see, that was being floated. It came as a question from the reporter, but he'd already given it to them. And that's the slick way of kind of doing things. And so he gets in that discussion. Then he's on the Inside Edition. He starts talking about more stuff, and he's saying that, it's just horrible stuff. I mean, like, who would go on national TV and start talking about that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. And what he was doing, he was trying to put it over. This is my opinion. He's trying to put it over on the new pastor that's coming and replaced him, because on the third day or whatever on the New York Post, he finally comes back and says, no, they hadn't been counseling. She was counseled years earlier. And when I heard that, I went, uh-oh. Mm-hmm. She was counseled back when they were at the Covenant School, because she didn't go to church there, so it had to be back in the early years. And of course, I've got a tip saying that they had an investigation team that had interviewed her, and so I'm thinking, there's something going on over there. And I always suspected there was something going on over in the school, but it was a brick wall up, and it was very difficult to penetrate it.
Yes. Our next question is, why did Audrey not stop and shoot the children at the playground when she pulled into the school?
Well, I don't think she was intending. I mean, I know they say it. I'm sure they feel that way. I mean, it's hard to talk about this stuff because,
of course, yeah,
there are parents,
and it's hard for me to even like say it out loud, because I know, parents and others.
I'm doing it out of love for those parents, because, and I can be hard on people. I was hard on my father when I had a conversation with him. I think some hard discussions are needed right here, but I think that I think she did have what she was doing. She looked like she drove. She went right by there. She sees that playground. These kids were, she went to church here. She went to school there. I was saying she went to the school, there at the church. So she knows, she sees the playground, and she actually was childlike. And she, I think, loved playgrounds. And so I think she might not have wanted to go over there to the playground. Mm-hmm. If she was there, like it says in the manifesto, it's like, I just want to go up there and kill everybody I can. And all the kind of language that says that in that opening. See, I think she would have stopped and gone out. That'd be the first place she might have attacked. But she went on around, got up, came right through the door. And of course, she says she's there like, it basically seems geared towards shooting white people.
Mm-hmm.
But the first person she shoots is Mr. Hill.
That's I never thought about that.
You think she'd pass him over or something. And then it's really murky inside there because they've never put out where people actually got shot, what parts of the building, any of that kind of stuff, If you went and looked at like the Manson murders or any other murder, you'd like see where bodies were, and there'd be like a diagram of it. But it's really hard once you get inside that building to kind of know where the path was. I mean, they got video camera equipment in there. All of it would have been videotaped, but they're not showing or telling us where people were, and it's just kind of murky. And I think it's because there's some things in there like Brink Fiddler, who was the Covenant security guy that trained him. When he came out there the day he walked out, he said that it had been like flawlessly executed or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't think that was flawlessly executed. Somehow somebody opened up the door and people started going down the hallway, and some, if they'd stayed in the classes and, had those doors barricaded or whatever, Audrey wouldn't have been able to get to anybody.
Yeah.
But, I'm not blaming any of that. I'm just saying that it's not flawlessly executed. No question that teachers and people were doing incredible things to try to protect the kids once it's underway. But he's also the guy that came out on Brian Wilson right around the anniversary. This Covenant security trainer that's like 18-year ex-police officer, and he was the head of Nashville Drug Task Force. He's the guy they brought in to train them, do all these bad guy drills or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was interviewed by Brian Wilson on 99.7, and Brian Wilson kind of went, he said, we can't really understand when was Audrey at school? When did she go there? Like, nobody's ever really told us when she went there.
Yeah.
And he said she went there from K through 3, and that she didn't go past 3rd grade. Well, there's a problem there. He's kind of the unofficial spokesman on that day for the Metro Police Department. He's got people back there. They're telling what's the manifesto, this and that. Now he's out there telling us when Audrey went to school. The problem is on the day of the shooting, the day after, actually on the day of the shooting, they're calling Dr. Bill Campbell, who's the head of the school, and he said with NBC, numerous people, he said, and people can go Google him and look it up, he said that he had to go back and look at his annuals, and that she was there in 3rd grade and 4th grade per the annuals, and wasn't there in 5th and 6th because she transferred.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's there in 4th grade. She's there in 2006. And 2006 is where I'm focused.
That's kind of a big, that's a big deal.
That's when the investigation was underway. There was an investigation committee, and they were talking to people in 2006. They interviewed me in March 23rd, the day before Audrey's birthday, 2006. And then like 17 years later, there's going to be a shooting on the 27th. And so I'm being interviewed by the Elder Investigation Committee. Greg Leary's getting interviewed on April the 19th, I believe. There's an actual document that I put out on Twitter and stuff that shows that top part. But what I didn't know about was Audrey over there. And she's going to be leaving the school in May. And then here we are, and it looks to me like they must have, if what that tip was correct, it looks to me like that she was getting interviewed by somebody, and that would have probably been the time in that period of time, because why is somebody coming up now and trying to eliminate 2006? You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Why is an ex-cop coming up and trying to tell everybody now that she wasn't there in 4th grade? Because 4th grade's where Elder Investigation Committees meeting and interviewing people, and there's somebody that said they talked to a Hale relative, and they were brought in front of an internal investigation.
Let me ask you this: rather than it being a purposeful obfuscation of the truth, could it just be a cop that didn't really know and said it on the spot and just made a mistake?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
No, we didn't find out. Because we can't get a manifesto, we can't get anything.
Yeah,
we're not getting anything at this point. They're going to redact stuff. See, I don't trust the police at all, because I know they're involved in a child sex abuse cover-up right now. They should be the last people holding the custody of all these documents.
Yeah, which again, that proves the point. It goes back to the original sin here is the whole sex abuse cover-up with John Perry at the helm of that. And if that's if that is proven true or has the evidence to prove that it is, which it seems to me that it's true, then everything kind of stands and needs to be looked at based on what you're saying. Let me ask you this. Can I ask you something on the margins here?
Yeah, you can ask for whatever you want.
So I've heard this enough times. It was something I was not going to ask you, one of the audience questions, but I've heard it over and over again from people that are saying, what about this? What about this? Sounds crazy, but I just want to get your thoughts. So, when Audrey was at the school going to, shoot it up, is it possible that she was out to just kill those who'd been abusing children, and the kids who were killed were murdered to redirect the narrative from taking hold? And then this person follows up by saying, actually that's all they said. They said, do you think Audrey actually killed the children that day? I know that sounds crazy. I'm very, very cautious in even saying it out loud.
I don't know. The problem is you have a crime scene. Again, it'd be like me and you going to a bank robbery. We do a bank robbery. Let's say me and you went and robbed a bank. And then we came back and escaped our houses, and then we put our police uniforms on, went back to the bank, steal the bank. Now we're in the bank where all the fingerprints and evidence is, and we're in there as custodians of the bank now. With people been walking outside and being interviewed by the press and everything. And some of those guys are our buddies, and we're all linked together. No one would ever know what the truth is. And that's the problem you got there. That's why integrity of police and law enforcement. I heard today when I was listening to the case again about the rule of law. The judges up there, the rule of law, and the people are disrespecting the police, and they're not they're releasing the manifesto pages and disrespecting the police. And I'm sitting there going I don't respect them at all because I've been arrested by them. They've lied about me. They've lied and told me the statute of limitations was 19 when they met with me and my wife. And we had 8 high level. People don't trust anything they're saying. I don't trust them inside the scene. We don't know anything that went on there. I don't know. I'm assuming what they're telling us is somewhat true. But I don't know, and I think that I'd like to know more about. I mean, to me, when I read some of the sworn statements and things, I go, there's just some things there that don't seem right to me. But I don't know. It's foggy, and it shouldn't be. It should be a lot clearer. But the problem is, you've got people that they're really deep into a cover up. And now this has happened. And so when you looked out there, you saw D.A. Funk standing out there. D.A. Funk didn't come out there when they were interviewing the first day and say, he called it a true crime or whatever it was he said on Channel 5. He didn't get out there and say, well, Austin Davis we arrested him up here a few years ago and tried him and convicted him down there, and he's a potential Sandy Hook shooter. And hell, we thought he was the first guy that was in there. We heard it was a male white guy in there shooting the church up. He didn't come out and say any of that kind of stuff. He still hadn't told anybody that what they did to me. Why is that? Why is that not told to the city of Nashville? I don't care if they tell it. I think I'm telling it. I think they need to know. Why are they not telling? Why are the media not telling everybody? Because they covered it up and the media's in it and they got blood on their hands.
Last question. So you said early on in the show, you're no longer political. You're not right wing anymore, not left wing. You're just an American. You're a freedom loving Christian American. When it comes to the politics of Tennessee, most of the establishment politicians would say they are Republican, GOP, what have you. But there are others like Al Gore, or I think maybe Funk. I don't know where he is. But reporters like Phil Williams that are playing a role, it seems to me. How does all that play into this? The right and left politics and a church, and you're looking at this from an outside perspective over 20 years now.
Well, I just see myself, I was a deacon in the church, which is the higher honor that I could have in life, really. I took it seriously. I didn't grow up in the church and everything, so I got in there, and I kind of look at like in the movie, the show, The Game of Thrones, or different places where you have like a soldier or a loyal person to a king.
You obviously like shows, Austin.
I do, but I do illustrate something like a king.
Sure.
I see Christ and it says that in the Book of Church Order. The first thing, he's king and head of the church. I see a very disrespected king. a very beaten and bloodied and disrespected king in America, even at this point. Now, that's fine. Everybody can do what they want. They can spit on him, hit him, do whatever they want to him, but I don't see him that way. And so I'm over in that church, and I see it as a holy place. I see it as holy ground, and so I see him there, and then I see betrayal, and I see lying, and I see people doing everything in the world they can to undermine him and usurp his authority, and really make him look bad, and really make a lot of the people that don't go to church look over and go, well, hell, he supports child sex abuse. They go, all the Christians do that. All these homeschooling people, everybody. Well, there might be some people that do that, but that's not everybody. Just like there are a lot of people out in the world that don't go to church. They're out molesting kids and doing things. Right. Lots of people in Hollywood seem to be doing it. Lots of politicians may be doing it. That's all over the place. It's epidemic. But I'm loyal to the King, and that's my only allegiance right now. And so it's not to the political parties. It's not the Joe Biden or Trump or Bill Lee or the Republican Party. I've written all the people down at the state capitol. They all know me. I've written the governor. I've been in front of the Tennessee Supreme Court. They all know who I am. I've been in front of them. I'm probably the most known guy up there, but 7 million Tennesseans don't know squat about me. And so I'm serving that King. And I think that he's Almighty God, and I think that he's not happy, and I think that he's going to surprise everybody in all this. I got a feeling that he's moving and he's doing things, and he's going to show his mighty hand in Nashville.
That's good. Well, Austin, I never showed this on camera, but, you know, both times I met you now before we started talking, you said, well, Jeremy, let me pray. Would you mind, you know, this is a pretty serious show, and there's a lot going on right now in Tennessee and in the world with the Christian faith, and, you know, from the top line to the bottom line, there's a lot of stuff going on. Would you mind closing this show out in a prayer, Austin?
Sure. Father, we just come to you, and we just every time I think about this, it's so it's such a wound to the heart and the soul, and so sad. And even though we try to talk about it, and I just all I can think about is these little kids. I think about these kids that have been in school for 2 days and have gone back into that building, and I just lift them up to you. I lift up these children. I lift up their parents to you. I lift up all of them. I lift up even the leaders. I lift up the police department. I lift up Judge Miles. I lift up everybody in the city. We are all flawed, and we all sin, and we are, you know, but we can be pretty messed up, and we've gotten ourselves in, I think, a big mess here in Nashville. And so I just pray that you will somehow work and do your will. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like or what you're trying to do, but I just commit us into your hands. Whatever it is you want to do, it may be hard, it may be tough, it may be merciful, it may all kinds of things it can be, but we need you, and I look to you, and I thank you for Jeremy and all the work he's done in this. I pray for people that listen to the show, that they'll tell their friends, and spread the word, because I don't think the media is going to ever help. It's Tokyo Rose, and they're inside of us, and they're not telling us the truth anymore. And that's destructive. And so I pray that you'll move and work and help us and save us, and give us some light, because it seems like the light's going out in America. And so I just pray you'll be with us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Austin, thank you so much. I appreciate all your time, brother, and all, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of a person to pack 20 years of experience into 2 hours. So
well, you did a great job of putting it together. I'll tell you, I was shocked.
Well, thank you, and you're welcome.
All right, Jim.
Well, Austin, we will talk to you soon, and thank you so much for coming on today.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gents, that was a long one. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And if you've got questions, you know where to find me. Thanks a lot, guys, in following, subscribing, liking, and sharing the shows on J. Slay Made in the USA. Thanks so much.